Chapter 249. Lin Yuan had already made plans to go out for training early in the morning. Therefore, he had just set a time for 3 p.m. After completing the transaction with Gao Feng, Lin Yuan still had to go to the Radiant Moon Palace to meet his master, the Moon Empress, for a final question-and-answer session before going out for training. There were less than 4 hours left before 3:00 in the afternoon. Therefore, Lin Yuan immediately logged into Star Web and went to the Rare Life Form Pavilion to purchase the Spirit Spring Lily that Wang Duo had chosen. The Spirit Spring Lily was a support-type plant fey. Although the Spirit Spring Lily was relatively rare and expensive, it was not too difficult to buy in the Rare Life Form Pavilion. That was because the Spirit Spring Lily was a pure support-type fey, and its demand in the market was not very high. The Spirit Spring Lily did not have the slightest offensive ability or the slightest control ability. Instead, it was a support-type plant fey that could inject a large amount of spirit chi into other feys to increase the strength of their abilities. When the high-grade Spirit Spring Lily was activated, the spirit chi that gushed out of the lily bud was like a gushing spirit spring. Although the Spirit Spring Lily's support-type ability was extremely strong, the spirit chi professionals who contracted it were relatively awkward. This was because the spirit chi professionals who contracted the Spirit Spring Lily could only rely on their teammates no matter what they did in the future. If it was like Poison Beauty, whose contracted fey was extremely suitable for Star Tower duels and not suitable for spirit chi professional teams, then the spirit chi professionals who contracted the Spirit Spring Lily would only be suitable for team battles and not for Star Tower duels. However, support-type spirit chi professionals who contracted the Spirit Spring Lily could actually play a role comparable to healing-type spirit chi professionals in a team. In fact, the role of a support-type spirit chi professional like the Spirit Spring Lily was stronger than that of a healing-type spirit chi professional to some teams. However, the prerequisite for such a willful choice of a fey like the Spirit Spring Lily was that one had to have a stable and reliable team of spirit chi professionals. Lin Yuan did not understand why Gao Feng had contracted a breeze hibiscus. The breeze hibiscus was a support-type plant fey that had the ability to gather spirit chi. These 3 Spirit Spring Lilies were obviously in line with Gao Feng's fey affinity direction. Obviously, these 3 Spirit Spring Lilies were the feys that Gao Feng wanted to contract. Lin Yuan couldn't help but reveal a handsome and confused expression. Was Gao Feng trying to turn himself into a spirit chi silo on the battlefield? The higher the grade of a fey like the Spirit Spring Lily, the more obvious the role it could play in a team. This meant that the Spirit Spring Lily was a fey with extremely high requirements for resources. As the wealthiest family in Wind Mist City, Gao Feng naturally had the ability to support 3 Spirit Spring Lilies. However, such a fey combination was a little too extreme. Lin Yuan was the kind of person who did not like to put his fate in the hands of others. However, Gao Feng's choice of a contracted fey was the same as handing his fate to his teammates. The 3 Spirit Spring Lilies that Lin Yuan had purchased in the Star Web Rare Life Form Pavilion were quickly delivered to him through Ostrich Logistics. When Lin Yuan had been enhancing these 3 Spirit Spring Lilies, an accident had occurred. This was because one of the Spirit Spring Lilies had mutated when it was promoted to the bronze rank. From the Spirit Spring Lily to the Yellow Spring Lily. This surprised Lin Yuan because the probability of a Spirit Spring Lily mutating into a Yellow Spring Lily was simply too low. Although it was not like the Blue Flash Butterfly mutating into the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly that only existed in legends, the probability was not much different from winning 5 million in the lottery. If this Yellow Spring Lily did not consume too much spiritual energy to form a contract, Lin Yuan would have wanted to keep this Yellow Spring Lily and form a contract with it. However, there was only a trace of spiritual energy left in Lin Yuan's mind, and he could only form a contract with a normal fey. Even if Lin Yuan increased some spiritual energy by eating the cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia in the future, he would rather form a contract with a few more normal feys. With that increased spiritual energy, Lin Yuan would rather form a contract with a few more normal feys and nurture them slowly. He was also unwilling to form a contract with a bronze Yellow Spring Lily and completely consume his spiritual energy. Lin Yuan used Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock, because the Spirit Gather Goldfish and the Blue Flash Purple Butterfly were still stuck at Bronze X/Legend and lacked a suitable willpower rune to promote to Fantasy Breed. Therefore, Morbius had been unable to promote to Silver due to the Spirit Gather Goldfish and Blue Flash Purple Butterfly's grades. As a result, Morbius' Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had been unable to open the 4th Spirit Lock position. However, even if Morbius reached Silver and opened the 4th position of Spirit Lock, Lin Yuan would not let Morbius Spirit Lock the Yellow Spring Lily. This was because the Yellow Spring Lily's ability was not suitable for Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock. The Yellow Spring Lily's ability was to use the sacrificial sacrifice effect once in battle, sacrificing itself. It would sacrifice itself to heal the phase injuries and restore it to its peak state. After using sacrificial sacrifice, the Yellow Spring Lily would enter a withered state and need a long time to slowly recover. The phase grade that the Yellow Spring Lily could recover had to be lower than its own grade. Therefore, Morbius' exclusive skill, Spirit Lock, had an intrinsic conflict with the Yellow Spring Lily's sacrificial sacrifice. Moreover, the talents of the people around Lin Yuan were not suitable for forming a contract with this Yellow Spring Lily. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to ask Gao Feng for his opinion on this Yellow Spring Lily. Gao Feng should want to form a contract with this Yellow Spring Lily. The support effect that a Yellow Spring Lily could play could directly increase a support-type Spirit Chi professional's strategic position in a team battle and even raise it above the main output members. This was because the Yellow Spring Lily's ability effect could greatly increase the fault tolerance in a team battle. Many 5-man teams would often revolve around 1 or 2 main phase in a team battle. The Spirit Spring Lily's effect was equivalent to letting the main phase in this team not die. No matter how serious the injuries they suffered, they could instantly recover to their peak state. A Bronze/Epic Yellow Spring Lily's value was many times higher than a Bronze/Epic Spirit Spring Lily. Therefore, during the transaction, Lin Yuan naturally could not calculate the price of the Bronze/Epic Yellow Spring Lily according to the previously agreed price of a Bronze/Epic Spirit Spring Lily. However, Gao Feng and the Wind Mist City's Gao family behind him should be willing and able to afford the price of this Bronze/Epic Yellow Spring Lily. At the same time, Lin Yuan was also very much looking forward to the abnormal island whale that Gao Feng would bring in a while. If a fae like the island whale was abnormal, there was only one possibility: it had mutated. Lin Yuan could not help but look forward to how the mutated island whale that Gao Feng had mentioned on the phone was different from a normal island whale. Gao Feng was willing to use a strategic class resource like the island whale as a bargaining chip to exchange with him. Given the foundation of a wealthy family like the Gao family, they would never easily take out important strategic resources. Therefore, this mutated island whale must be very problematic. It was so problematic that the Gao family felt that this island whale was a useless thing in Lin Yuan's hands. Not long after Lin Yuan finished enhancing the 3 Spirit Spring Lilies and obtained 2 Bronze/Epic Spirit Spring Lilies and 1 Bronze/Epic Yellow Spring Lily, Lin Yuan's cell phone rang. Lin Yuan took a look and saw that it was Gao Feng who was calling. Brother, hee. I've already told me the location. It's a manor. Brother, you have good taste. I saw that the environment of the manor you live in is not bad. Lin Yuan replied, wait for me at the door. I'll get someone to bring you in. After saying that, Lin Yuan went downstairs and asked Wen Yu to bring Gao Feng over. In Lin Yuan's opinion, his transaction with Gao Feng was a process of enriching his resources. Through the transaction with Gao Feng, Lin Yuan could obtain those precious spiritual ingredients or phase that were not sold in the Star Web's Rare Lifeform Pavilion. Soon, Gao Feng was brought to the entrance of the mansion by Wen Yu. At that moment, the completely jade-textured old pear wood plaque with the words "Return from Far Away" was hung under the eaves of the mansion. Under the sunlight, the completely jade-textured old pear wood plaque emitted a golden-red luster. The luster seemed to have that simple and unadorned wood texture. The moment Gao Feng entered the manor, he had already felt the difference in the manor. It was late autumn, and even some high-grade phase would have corresponding changes due to the change in the solar terms. For example, some plant type and wood type phase would lose their leaves in late autumn, while plant type and flower type phase would not bloom in winter and would be dormant. However, all the plants in this mansion seemed to be unaffected by the solar terms and were still so lush and green. The temperature inside the mansion was the same as outside. However, the state of the plant's growth was like midsummer. Gao Feng arrived at the entrance of the mansion. Although he had yet to step into the house, he could feel a large amount of spirit qi and a faint jade-like luster. Gao Feng's heart jumped. Putting aside the large amount of spirit qi, just this jade-like luster was not a stranger to Gao Feng. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 250. This kind of jade-textured luster was very clear and seemed to have a natural refreshing feeling. Gao Feng, who came from an aristocratic family, could not be more familiar with this feeling. This was because the flower carving on Gao Feng's bed was carved from jade-textured willow wood. However, Gao Feng had yet to enter the mansion, and he could feel this halo during the day. Gao Feng knew that there was only one possibility. This mansion had a large number of things made of completely jade-textured wood. The moment he stepped into the mansion, Gao Feng suddenly felt that he was not as confident as when he came. As the richest family in Wind Mist City, the Gao family's wealth could be ranked in the entire Radiance Federation. As the only direct descendant of the Gao family, Gao Feng's arrogance and vision were unimaginable to ordinary people. It could even be said that Gao Feng was very flattering to Lin Yuan because Lin Yuan had the bronze/epic phase that he needed. Gao Feng would take out the mutated island whale, which was useless to the Gao family, to trade with Lin Yuan. He wanted to show off the Gao family's strength and wealth and let Lin Yuan know the benefits of trading with the Gao family. However, looking at the furnishings in this mansion, Gao Feng suddenly did not know where to put his arrogance as a descendant of the Gao family. Gao Feng naturally recognized the glow-winged butterflies, spirit-containing hibiscuses, and 5 fortune ranches. In Gao Feng's eyes, such a large number of bronze/flawless 5 fortune ranches, glow-winged butterflies, and spirit-containing hibiscuses had been converted into radiance dollars. Furthermore, with such a large number of bronze/flawless phase, there might be a few that had the potential to evolve to bronze/epic. It was simply too extravagant and shocking for such a fey to be casually raised in the residence. Although Gao Feng could not name the 3 carps that looked like dragons and phoenixes, he still had the vision to look at things. These 3 bronze/epic high-class auspicious fays were worth dozens of ordinary bronze/epic fays. Coupled with the completely jade-textured furniture and the fish tank made of completely jade-textured red sandalwood, Gao Feng clearly realized how deep the foundation of this mansion's owner was. It wasn't that the Gao family didn't have completely jade-textured wood, but most of them were made into ornaments and sculptures. It was inevitable that the furniture would be damaged if it was knocked around. Even to Gao Feng, the act of casually using furniture made from completely jade-textured wood could be considered a squandering act. The main residence of the Gao family was by a mountain and a river. Even the decorations in the main residence, which had been around for thousands of years, were not as luxurious as the decorations and furnishings in this residence. Gao Feng had completely retracted his arrogance from this transaction. If Gao Feng had only treated Lin Yuan as a superficial brother previously, he now really wanted to be friends with Lin Yuan. Gao Feng was very quick-witted. There was no harm in currying favor with this young man in front of him. Moreover, as a descendant of a wealthy family, Gao Feng had a good understanding of the strength and status of the people in his circle of friends. In Gao Feng's opinion, only people with similar strength and background could become friends who could share resources with each other. Because the strong could unite and become stronger. The combination of the strong and the weak, for the strong, would either absorb the weak as a vassal, or be a burden. When you said, "Young master, I've brought Gao Feng over. I'll help Uncle Hu to see if there are any other things in the manor that need to be meticulously sculpted and designed." Lin Yuan nodded, and when you bowed and left the residence. This made Gao Feng even more shocked. Gao Feng could feel the arrogance hidden deep in her bones from Wen Yu's bearing and bearing. This kind of arrogance was the kind of arrogance that was very polite. This kind of arrogance with politeness could only be nurtured in a true faction. Gao Feng had always thought that Wen Yu was also the owner of this mansion, but he now knew that this young lady in front of him was just a servant of this young man. Lin Yuan didn't care about what Gao Feng was thinking at this moment and said, "Come, let's sit down and talk." Let's sit down and talk. Then, Lin Yuan poured a cup of spirit tea that had just been brewed on the table for Gao Feng. Gao Feng took a sip of the spirit tea and carefully savored it. He could tell that this spirit tea should be produced from a platinum tea tree. However, he didn't know what kind of platinum tea tree it was, as he had never drunk it before. This spirit tea had a trace of spiritual fragrance, and when it rolled down the throat, it would immediately have a sweet aftertaste and bring along a light sweetness. The moment the spirit tea entered the mouth and was drunk, it was as though he had a light dream and was exceptionally strange. Gao Feng saw the crane's silhouette censer on the table and couldn't help but ask, "Can I see what kind of incense is burning in this crane silhouette censer?" Lin Yuan picked up the teacup and took a sip of the spirit tea. "You're welcome, please go ahead." Since he had already seen Lin Yuan's foundation, Gao Feng didn't find it strange that the crane silhouette censer was completely carved from the jade-textured dragon blood gold silk bamboo. It was just that the incense in this censer was too heavy, and Gao Feng felt that his state of mind had completely calmed down when he smelled this scent. However, when Gao Feng opened the lid that was carved with the crane silhouette and glanced at the black crystal powder that was burning in the censer that was emitting green smoke, Gao Feng hurriedly put the lid back on the crane silhouette incense burner. Gao Feng felt as though he was about to split open. Gao Feng immediately recognized this black crystal powder as the completely jade-textured agarwood. A trace of such an item could be sold for hundreds of thousands of radiance dollars, and it was considered an elegant item. But now, someone had actually shattered it and burned it in the censer. He simply did not take the radiance dollar seriously. Hundreds of thousands of radiance dollars had been burned in just a few minutes. Could it be just to smell this agarwood's faint and imperceptible calming fragrance? When Lin Yuan saw Gao Feng staring at the crane silhouette censer in a daze, he took the initiative to take out a bronze/epic spirit spring lily and placed it on the table. This is a bronze/epic spirit spring lily. I wonder what's the situation with the abnormal island whale that has yet to hatch in the eggshell? When Gao Feng saw the light pink bronze/epic spirit spring lily's 3 blooming flower buds and the spirit chi flowing like a mountain spring, he was delighted. Then, Gao Feng waved his hand and summoned an oval crystalline eggshell that was nearly half a meter tall from the flower-shaped diamond face storage box hanging on his wrist. The eggshells of ordinary island whales were dark blue with some brown lines. However, when Lin Yuan looked at this abnormal island whale egg in front of Gao Feng, he saw that this abnormal island whale egg had an extremely light blue color. The blue color had all sorts of indistinct bluish-white patterns. Lin Yuan could not help but say, "Your island whale's eggshell color is much worse than the island whales I know." Lin Yuan's words made Gao Feng a little embarrassed. After seeing Lin Yuan's foundation, Gao Feng had made up his mind to make friends with Lin Yuan, so he went straight to the point. "Brother, you should know about the breeding of island whales. If an island whale wants to hatch from its eggshell, it needs to devour a lot of spirit chi and water elements. Isn't there a saying that a whale swallows the world? Therefore, the amount of resources needed to breed a fantasy breed island whale is even more than the cost of feeding 100 king-tier powerhouses." Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 251. Gao Feng saw that Lin Yuan was listening to him seriously, so he continued. "This mutated island whale always has a sense of rejection toward absorbing spirit chi and water elements. Every time a creation master concocts a medicinal liquid rich in spirit chi and water elements, this mutated island whale can only absorb a little. To tell you the truth, with our Gao family's wealth, it is impossible to hatch this island whale. Lin Yuan was already using true data to observe this mutated island whale that was still in the crystal eggshell and had yet to hatch. However, under true data, this mutated island whale in the crystal eggshell was no longer called an island whale. It was called the floating island whale. Fey name, floating island whale. Fey species, baleen whale/winged whale. Fey grade, unhatched. Fey type, cheese/water. Fey quality, normal. This floating island whale was not just a water-type Fey, but a water and chi dual-type Fey. Looking at the information under true data, this floating island whale really surprised Lin Yuan. When ordinary island whales evolved into fantasy breeds, they would form islands of varying sizes in the sea according to their strength. On the back of the island whale's contractor could carry out construction as he wished. The island whale itself was a Fey born in a whale fall preys in the sea and would not be attacked by any marine Feys. In fact, many marine Feys would even spontaneously protect the island whale when it was attacked from outside. The island whale itself did not have any special attack means, but this did not mean that it was weak. On the contrary, few lifeforms of the same grade could resist the island whale's impact. Moreover, the island whale was like a moving fortress, and the real attack means often existed on its back. The difference between this floating island whale and normal island whales was that normal island whales could only form an island on their back in the sea. However, the floating island whale had two choices. It could either become an island in the sea or fly to the sky and build a floating city on its back. Gao Feng's words had also entered Lin Yuan's ears. He stroked the crystal eggshell that was incubating the floating island whale and tried to inject spiritual power into it. He found that the crystal eggshell would also reject the high-concentration spirit chi that he was transmitting over. With true data, Lin Yuan understood the reason. Previously, when the Gao family had been cultivating the floating island whale that had yet to hatch in the egg, they had not grasped the basic points. If one wanted to hatch an island whale, one could not just rely on a large amount of spiritual energy. At the same time, spiritual materials that contained a large amount of water elements were needed to promote the normal hatching of the island whale. It was the same for the floating island whale. It was supplemented with a large amount of spirit energy and water spirit materials, as well as gas spirit materials that were comparable to water spirit materials. Only then would the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale not reject it and absorb it. As for the floating island whale's contract method, it was very special and didn't require spiritual energy like other Feys. Instead, he needed to use his blood to imprint his scent on the floating island whale's eggshell for a long time. The floating island whale absorbed the blood on the eggshell. After birth, it would recognize the person with the smell of blood as its mother. At the same time, the floating island whale would take the initiative to form a contract with the person it treated as its mother. It could be said that the floating island whale's contract method was very simple. However, hatching an island whale wasn't something that ordinary people or forces could do. Gao Feng watched as Lin Yuan stroked the crystal eggshell that nurtured the mutated island whale and checked the island whale's situation. "Brother, if you don't think this island whale is good enough, I also brought a lot of source-type items to exchange." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan raised his brows. It would be fine if he didn't see this floating island whale, but how could he choose to let it go after seeing it? "I'll trade this island whale, but it may not be enough to trade for my 3 bronze/epic Feys." Gao Feng blinked his eyes and thought, Lin Yuan isn't asking for too much, right? He wants to bargain with this mutated island whale that hasn't hatched yet. If that was the case, Gao Feng would rather keep this mutated island whale and trade it with source-type items. In the entire Radiance Federation, probably no family or faction could take out this unhatched island whale. The Gao family had obtained this island whale by chance. Due to the Gao family's experts going out to sea, they encountered a huge storm and tsunami. The ships made of gold spiritual materials were swept far away by the ocean currents, and the Gao family's experts could only sink into the deep sea to avoid the wind and waves that could tear steel apart. Just as they were avoiding the wind and waves in the deep sea, the Gao family's experts happened to find a large whale fall at the bottom of the sea that had almost ended. The Gao family's experts searched the location of this large whale fall and only found 2 crystal eggshells that had yet to hatch and were pregnant with the island whale. However, when the Gao family's experts picked up these 2 crystal eggshells that were pregnant with the island whale, they were frantically besieged by the marine phase. At the cost of the death of 7 of the Gao family's king-class experts, they brought back a crystal eggshell that was pregnant with the island whale. The other island whale, which was still in the eggshell and had yet to hatch, had been snatched away by the marine phase in the battle with them. If it wasn't for the Gao family's king-level expert using a crystal eggshell with an island whale as bait, they wouldn't have been able to escape. Even if 7 king-class experts had perished in the other crystal eggshell that was pregnant with the island whale, it would not have been able to escape the pursuit of the crazy marine phase. It was just that the Gao family had paid such a huge price to bring back the island whale was a mutated one. For so many years, the Gao family had racked their brains, but there was no way to make this mutated eggshell that was pregnant with the island whale no longer reject spirit chi and water elements. When Lin Yuan summoned the other 2 bronze/epic spirit spring lilies, Gao Feng stared at them without blinking. Gao Feng stared unblinkingly at the bright yellow bronze/epic spirit spring lily. He immediately recognized that it was a yellow spring lily. As a direct descendant of the Gao family, Gao Feng dared to want to buy 3 bronze/epic spirit spring lilies. However, he had never dared to think about finding a bronze/epic yellow spring lily. This was because Gao Feng had been trying to get a yellow spring lily for almost a year. However, Gao Feng had not even been able to obtain a bronze/normal yellow spring lily. Now that he saw this bronze/epic yellow spring lily, Gao Feng could not help but tremble with excitement. If Lin Yuan wanted to obtain the floating island whale, then Gao Feng wanted to obtain the yellow spring lily at least 10 times more than Lin Yuan. Gao Feng had not been satisfied with his talent since he was young. However, talent could not be changed no matter what, so Gao Feng had accepted his fate. Since he was young, Gao Feng had thought that since his talent was a mediocre support-type spirit chi professional, he might as well unleash the support-type spirit chi professional support ability to the extreme. However, when Gao Feng was studying in Wind Mist City's Advanced Spirit Chi Academy, he suddenly understood that as a support-type spirit chi professional, no matter how strong his support ability was, he still had to rely on his teammates. Gao Feng deeply felt how helpless his fate was in the hands of others. That was why Gao Feng wanted to increase his attack power. This was also why Gao Feng wanted to obtain the Source-type Hurricane Owlet Moth at the private auction. However, the overwhelming news of the tournament start made Gao Feng's original thoughts return to the original place. Gao Feng's current thinking was also very carefree. After all, he was the only direct descendant of the Gao family. He had plenty of capital to squander. In Gao Feng's opinion, if he insisted on being a support that focused on output, his attack power would never be comparable to an offense-class spirit chi professional. That way, he would really become a mediocre person. During this period of time, Gao Feng had been looking for a team that he could rely on. He could also display what a true support should be like in his heart. Now, as a stubborn perfectionist, Gao Feng finally saw the yellow spring lily he had been dreaming of. Moreover, the yellow spring lily was bronze/epic. Gao Feng looked at the bronze/epic yellow spring lily and said firmly to Lin Yuan, "Brother, this mutated island whale is indeed not worthy of these 2 bronze/epic spirit spring lilies and bronze/epic yellow spring lilies." Gao Feng paused for a moment, then said very sincerely, "Brother, name a price. How many source-type items can be exchanged for these 2 bronze/epic spirit spring lilies and this bronze/epic yellow spring lily?" Lin Yuan smiled and shook his head. Lin Yuan's shake of his head immediately made Gao Feng nervous. When Lin Yuan saw the floating island whale in the crystal eggshell that had yet to hatch, he had already made up his mind about what resources he was going to exchange with Gao Feng. Since the Gao family had tried their best to hatch this floating island whale, they would definitely have what Lin Yuan wanted. Moreover, these items used to hatch the island whale could not possibly appear in the Star Web's rare life form pavilion. The reason was very simple. It was because the Star Web's rare lifeform pavilion was not worthy of such items. Lin Yuan looked into Gao Feng's eyes and said indifferently, Baidu, read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 252. Lin Yuan's voice echoed unhurriedly. Since you said that your Gao family cultivated this mutated island whale, then your Gao family must have elemental shellfish. As soon as Lin Yuan's words fell, Gao Feng's originally nervous expression immediately became exceptionally grave. Gao Feng was currently weighing the value of the elemental shellfish and the bronze/epic yellow spring lily. Even if the yellow spring lily was a support-type fae that Gao Feng dreamed of, he did not know if he should agree to Lin Yuan's conditions. Gao Feng knew that since Lin Yuan had proposed to trade the elemental shellfish, it meant that Lin Yuan had already made up his mind. If he didn't agree to exchange it with the elemental shellfish, it was very likely that this bronze/epic yellow spring lily would not be fated with him. However, even as the only direct descendant of the Gao family, Gao Feng couldn't make a decision on his own regarding the elemental shellfish. Gao Feng thought for a moment and said in a roundabout way, Brother, do you want this elemental shellfish to cultivate your own island whale? The resources needed to cultivate the island whale and elemental shellfish are not a small amount. Lin Yuan didn't hide it and nodded. Since I chose to trade this mutated island whale, I naturally have to nurture it. Gao Feng's eyelids twitched as he looked at the crystal eggshell containing the mutated island whale. Gao Feng was well aware of how much resources the Gao family had used up for this mutated island whale. It was simply a bottomless pit. The Gao family had been nurturing this mutated island whale for so long without any progress. Gao Feng did not think that Lin Yuan could hatch this mutated island whale. However, when he saw Lin Yuan's confident expression, he didn't know how to persuade him. When Lin Yuan really looked for a creation master to try to use the concocted spirit fluid to nurture this mutated island whale, he would probably back off. As for the elemental shellfish, Gao Feng hesitantly extended 4 fingers and said, If you want to exchange for an elemental shellfish, I can't even take out a single adult elemental shellfish. I can only take out 4 young elemental shellfish that are dormant. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and shook his head. 4 dormant infant elemental shellfish. Brother Gao is too stingy. This is a bronze/epic yellow spring lily. If Brother Gao misses it, you won't be able to find it anywhere else. He had heard that the elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish were required to nurture the island whale. This was the knowledge he had learned from the Moon Empress during the question and answer session with her. Lin Yuan had been curious and noted it down. He did not expect to be able to obtain a mutated floating island whale today. Lin Yuan knew that if he could exchange for 4 young dormant elemental shellfish, it would already be very suitable for him. However, since he was trading such a precious item with Gao Feng, he still had to raise the price. When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, he said very seriously, Yes. Brother, if it weren't for the fact that you took out this bronze/epic yellow spring lily, which made it hard for me to reject, I would never have agreed to exchange it with the elemental shellfish. Our Gao family has been expanding into the sea all these years. We've sacrificed a lot of king-class combat power, but after so many years, we have less than 15 elemental shellfish. These 4 young elemental shellfish are the only 4 that the Gao family has left. Brother Lin, if you really feel that 4 young elemental shellfish are not enough, then I'll add another 5 million radiance dollars. Is that possible? Gao Feng's words made Lin Yuan involuntarily recall the private auction held by the Lightning Sparrow King's King-class expert squad. Gao Feng had said the same thing in order to exchange for that source-type life form, the hurricane owlet moth. It was obvious that Gao Feng liked the yellow spring lily very much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such an aggrieved expression and added another 5 million radiance dollars to see if he could reach a deal with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan knew about the elemental shellfish, and they were indeed abnormally precious. They only grew in places with high spirit qi concentration in the deep sea. However, places with high spirit qi concentration in the deep sea were inhabited by a large number of powerful marine fays. The elemental shellfish was a fae that had an extremely high requirement for spirit qi concentration. This was a little similar to Lu Jie's source-type life form, the insect queen. However, Lu Jie's source-type life form, the insect queen, could only recover its injured roots and evolve and improve its quality under high spirit qi concentration. As for the elemental shellfish, if they didn't live in an environment with high purity of spiritual energy, they would die in a short while. Therefore, for the other factions to allow the elemental shellfish to live healthily, they would need at least a Class 3 creation master to carefully accompany them. They used all kinds of precious spiritual ingredients to concoct a spiritual liquid that produced a high concentration of spiritual energy, just so that the elemental shellfish could survive. Nurturing the elemental shellfish was a matter that consumed a lot of resources. For the elemental shellfish that were in a dormant state during their infancy, as long as they didn't awaken the elemental shellfish with a high concentration of spirit energy, the elemental shellfish would be fine. In that case, the young elemental shellfish could survive for a long time in a dormant state. Gao Fengtian's decision to take out 4 infant elemental shellfish at once was already a rather bold decision. Lin Yuan said straightforwardly, "Why don't I become friends with Brother Gao?" 2 epic spirit spring lilies and a bronze/epic yellow spring lily in exchange for Brother Gao's unhatched mutated island whale, plus 4 elemental shellfish that are in a dormant state in their infancy. After speaking, Lin Yuan waved his hand and took out a strip of black crystal from the leaf-shaped diamond face storage box. When Lin Yuan took out the strip of black crystal, it immediately had a jade-like luster. The black crystal that Lin Yuan took out was a completely jade-textured agarwood. When Lin Yuan saw that Gao Feng was rather fond of the agarwood's burning smell, he thought of giving one to Gao Feng. Lin Yuan did this because he wanted to make a business friend with Gao Feng. In the future, he could also trade with Gao Feng to exchange for some resources that he couldn't obtain in the rare life form pavilion. In the spirit qi awakening era, radiance dollars might have powerful purchasing power. However, some rare spiritual ingredients and phase had strategic significance and value that couldn't be measured with radiance dollars. The elemental shellfish was such a fae. The elemental shellfish could produce elemental pearls in an environment with a high concentration of spirit qi. The elemental pearls produced by ordinary elemental shellfish contained a variety of pure elemental energy. The elemental energy contained in the elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish could be completely absorbed by the fae. Under normal circumstances, when a fae devoured spiritual ingredients, it would only be able to absorb a little bit of the corresponding elemental energy. Even if a creation master concocted the spiritual ingredients into a spirit fluid, the fae wouldn't be able to absorb a lot of elemental energy from the spirit fluid concocted by the creation master, and it would be a huge waste. It was the same as a fae absorbing spirit qi. When a creation master concocted a spirit fluid to enhance a fae, even if it was concocted by a pinnacle class for creation master, the fae wouldn't be able to completely absorb it. However, Lin Yuan could use his body to transfer the spirit qi in the world to the fae's body, allowing the fae to completely absorb it. The elemental pearls and elemental energy produced by the elemental shellfish had the same effect as Lin Yuan's body and spirit qi. However, after Lin Yuan obtained the elemental shellfish, he was going to induce the elemental shellfish to mutate. He was going to induce 2 of the 4 infant elemental shellfish to mutate into the aquamarine elemental shellfish. It would produce elemental pearls that contained pure water elements. The other 2 infant elemental shellfish would be induced to mutate into the celestine elemental shellfish. It would produce elemental pearls that contained pure qi elements. A high concentration of pure spirit qi wasn't worth mentioning to Lin Yuan as it was everywhere in the spirit lock spatial zone. With the aquamarine elemental shellfish and the celestine elemental shellfish, it was equivalent to having elemental pearls that contained pure water elements and elemental pearls that contained pure qi elements. By then, if Lin Yuan wanted to nurture the water and qi dual-type floating island whale, it wouldn't be a problem anymore. Gao Feng was also a forthright person. As a direct descendant of the Gao family, Gao Feng usually had his own schemes. However, in his heart, Gao Feng had already treated Lin Yuan as someone on the same level as him and had the intention to befriend him. Now that Lin Yuan had given him such a precious, completely jade-textured agarwood, Gao Feng couldn't help but feel a little touched. Gao Feng could not help but feel a little touched. He took out an ice blue jade brocade box from the flower-shaped diamond face storage box on his wrist. When this ice blue jade brocade box was taken out, it immediately emitted a chilling intent. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 253. Gao Feng handed the icy blue jade brocade box to Lin Yuan and said, "All right, let's go. Brother, I will ask my family to mail the 4 infant elemental shellfish to you from Wind Mist City through Ostrich Logistics." Lin Yuan took the jade box that Gao Feng handed over and did not reject it. When he opened the brocade box, he saw a giant dark blue scale of an unknown fae. These scales contained extremely powerful water element energy and dragon might. It was obvious that this scale came from a powerful dragon species fae that lived in the sea. He waved his hand and stored the ice blue jade brocade box into his leaf-shaped diamond fae storage box. Upon seeing this, Gao Feng also put the completely jade-textured agarwood back into the flower-shaped diamond fae storage box hanging on his wrist. Giving gifts after a transaction was an expression of goodwill and a desire to befriend the other party. Gao Feng was naturally very happy about this situation. However, when Gao Feng saw that he already had 2 bronze/epic spirit spring lilies and 1 bronze/epic yellow spring lily, he was both happy and troubled. This was because he wanted to become a pure support-type spirit chi professional, and he had done it now. However, the problem of him not having any teammates had not been solved, and this made Gao Feng very frustrated. Lin Yuan asked when he saw Gao Feng's expression constantly changing as he looked at the 3 bronze/epic phase he had nurtured. "Is there any problem with the exclusive skills comprehended by these bronze/epic phase at bronze?" When he had enhanced the 3 spirit spring lilies, he had upgraded them from elite to epic. This way, when these 3 spirit spring lilies were promoted to bronze, Lin Yuan would have 3 chances to choose an exclusive skill. In his opinion, be it the 2 spirit spring lilies or the yellow spring lily, the exclusive skills he had chosen were very good. Lin Yuan had chosen based on Gao Feng's situation. Gao Feng hurriedly replied, "That's not the case. Be it these 2 spirit spring lilies or this yellow spring lily, their exclusive skills at bronze are very suitable for me." At this point, Gao Feng felt that it was really a coincidence. In Gao Feng's mind, he would never have thought that Lin Yuan had specifically chosen the exclusive skill that would be produced when a fae evolved to bronze based on his situation. Gao Feng thought that Lin Yuan already had these 3 bronze/epic faes. Gao Feng had not told him that he had changed his mind and wanted the spirit spring lilies. Moreover, it had only been over 4 hours since he had changed his mind. In such a short period of time, Gao Feng did not dare to guess that the 2 spirit spring lilies and the yellow spring lily had just been promoted to bronze/epic. Gao Feng sighed 3 times and said, "My previous contracted fae was a breeze hibiscus, but it has been promoted to a gold/fantasy breed fae. In addition to these 2 spirit spring lilies and this yellow spring lily, my 4 contracted faes are purely supportive. I might not even be able to defeat a spirit chi professional with a silver power offense-type fae. I don't know what my father is thinking this year. He still wants me to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. It will be embarrassing enough for me to go in. Even if I have a gold/fantasy breed breeze hibiscus, it doesn't have the ability to attack, and it will be beaten out in an instant. I have always wanted to find a stable and reliable team, but I can't find a suitable one. It's too difficult for me." Gao Feng had opened up a chatterbox and told Lin Yuan about his worries. Lin Yuan listened to Gao Feng's words and said, "I don't need a silver power offense-type fae." Gao Feng's contracted faes were at the extreme. They were all weak plant species faes. They didn't have attack abilities and weren't good at attacking. Their plant bodies were also very weak. If such a way of contracting faes was in a stable team, and if the other team members were strong enough individually, Gao Feng would be a god-tier support. If such a method of contracting phase was used in a stable team, and if the other team members were individually strong enough, Gao Feng would be a god-class support. If the teammates were not strong enough and the teammates carried Gao Feng, it would be the same as 4 against 5. This was because Gao Feng's role was only to make a strong team stronger. In a weak team, even if Gao Feng enhanced his teammates, helped his teammates, and the friendly phase on the battlefield to recover spirit power, protected the core phase, and increased the tolerance for mistakes, it still wouldn't be of any decisive use. However, it still wouldn't be of any decisive use. If he wasn't strong enough, he would still be beaten up. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Gao Feng was indeed too difficult. When Gao Feng heard Lin Yuan's words, he was immediately flabbergasted. According to normal operations, shouldn't Lin Yuan be consoling himself at this moment? Why isn't he playing by the rules? In less than 2 hours, the 4 infant elemental shellfish that were still in hibernation were transported from Wind Mist City's Gao family to Lin Yuan's hands. Gao Feng looked at the 4 infant elemental shellfish that weren't even as big as the amber buttons on Lin Yuan's sleeves. Once these 4 infant elemental shellfish are awakened from their hibernation by spirit qi, if there isn't a high concentration spirit qi environment for them to survive within 5 minutes, the elemental shellfish will immediately die. Gao Feng was very serious when he said this. What Gao Feng said was a bloody lesson that the Gao family had learned after losing a few infant elemental shellfish when they were nurturing the elemental shellfish. If Gao Feng didn't treat Lin Yuan as a friend, he wouldn't have said such words. Lin Yuan immediately stored the 4 elemental shellfish into the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. With the high concentration Spirit Qi in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, the 4 infant elemental shellfish would immediately awaken from their hibernation and absorb a large amount of high-purity spirit qi. Lin Yuan planned to mutate 2 elemental shellfish into aquamarine elemental shellfish and 2 into celestine elemental shellfish. Then, he would stop the elemental shellfish's grade at elite/epic and prevent them from evolving to bronze. If the elemental shellfish were to evolve to bronze, they would evolve into another shellfish Fei, the exploding pearl shellfish. When they evolved to bronze, the exploding pearl shellfish would enhance their offensive capabilities. The elemental pearls produced by the bronze exploding pearl shellfish would become bombs that contained elemental energy, and other Feis wouldn't be able to perfectly absorb them. If that was the case, Lin Yuan would be at a huge loss. After Gao Feng completed the transaction with Lin Yuan, he asked for Lin Yuan's private communication software and added each other as friends. Before leaving, Gao Feng suddenly said, "Brother, you have so many completely jade-textured wood spirit materials. I wonder if you have any surplus you want to sell?" Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied, "I have a lot of completely jade-textured wood spirit materials here. If you want to trade, we can contact each other on the phone." When Gao Feng heard this, he was overjoyed. Gao Feng could not help but think that if he could get a lot of jade-textured wood from Lin Yuan, his old fogies would be so happy. This was because to the rich and powerful, having furniture or ornaments made of completely jade-textured wood placed in their homes represented their heritage and prestige. After Gao Feng left, Lin Yuan looked at the time. It was already dusk. He left his mansion and headed in the direction of the Radiant Moon Palace. After visiting his master, the Moon Empress, Lin Yuan couldn't wait to go out and train. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 254. When Lin Yuan arrived at the Leaning Moon Mountain, he happened to see Jin Qi, who was wearing a light yellow spirit attendant robe, tidying up the dead branches that some plant phase had shed after they had evolved. When Jin Qi saw Lin Yuan, she quickly bowed and greeted, "Greetings, Lord Lin Yuan." Then, he hurriedly went to other places to clean up the environment of the Leaning Moon Mountain. Jin Qi did not know why, but when she saw Lin Yuan now, she no longer had the same thoughts as before. There was only awe and fear. Ever since Wen Yu was chosen as her assistant, Jin Qi had been living in fear. He was always afraid that Wen Yu would find fault with him. Even Lin Yuan would help Wen Yu deal with him. Jin Qi now understood that even when you could deprive her of her qualification as a spirit attendant with just a word, let alone Lin Yuan, the Radiant Moon Palace's young lord. Lin Yuan, who was heading toward the Radiant Moon Palace, did not know Jin Qi's thoughts. If Lin Yuan knew, he would definitely think that if a person was suffering from persecutory delusions, they would need to be treated quickly. Of course, if a person did not do anything wrong, it would be difficult for him to suffer from a mental illness such as persecutory delusion. When Lin Yuan arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance, he saw his master, the Moon Empress, holding an emerald green bottle that contained a light purple spirit liquid. As the Moon Empress' wrist shook, the pale purple spirit fluid churned. Lin Yuan felt as though ancient trees that pierced through the clouds had appeared in front of him. The ancient tree contained a majestic life force. This life force seemed to be able to lift up the heavens. The Moon Empress circulated her spirit power, and the spirit liquid in the bottle turned into 2 wisps of purple gas that wound around the 2 diamond/legend silver stamen gold luster caches beside the Radiant Moon Palace. The 2 diamond/legend silver stamen gold luster kasha absorbed the 2 wisps of faint purple spirit chi. One of the branches and leaves became more luxuriant, while the other seemed to wither in an instant. All of the leaves, including the remaining flowers of the silver stamen gold luster kasha, turned into ashes in an instant. The Moon Empress had already noticed Lin Yuan's arrival and waved at him. "Let's go. Follow me to the back of the palace. This silver stamen gold luster kasha has lived up to expectations. When it sprouts, it will be promoted to the suzerain tier. I didn't waste the suzerain tier blood wood, the freedom canopy, and the holy river to concoct this spiritual liquid." He was currently using true data to observe the 2 silver stamen gold luster caches in front of the Radiant Moon Palace. The withered silver stamen gold luster kasha had obviously comprehended a willpower rune and was accumulating energy to advance to the suzerain tier. After reaching suzerain, if it could withstand the world cleansing, it would become a myth-breed fae. As for the other silver stamen gold luster kasha, although its growth looked gratifying, it actually had a tree full of flower buds in late autumn. But in essence, there wasn't much improvement. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt his spirit jolt, and a feeling of enlightenment surged in his heart. He felt that this feeling of enlightenment was still a little lacking. As long as that strand was broken, he would be able to comprehend another willpower rune. The Moon Empress sensed Lin Yuan's change and smiled. "As long as I have an understanding of the world, obtaining a willpower rune is only a matter of time. I don't have to worry too much about the understanding in my mind and just let nature take its course." Lin Yuan nodded. Lin Yuan had always been open-minded, so he wouldn't worry too much about the willpower rune he hadn't comprehended and the feeling of being in the clouds. This feeling of being just a little short of enlightenment was a little like a person wanting to sneeze but being stuck and almost unable to sneeze. After entering the Radiant Moon Palace's main hall, Lin Yuan had a question-and-answer exercise with the Moon Empress. This question-and-answer exercise went on for a long time. It was mainly because during this period of time, as Lin Yuan's strength got stronger and he came into contact with more things, he could increasingly feel his shallowness. However, the question-and-answer exercise with the Moon Empress perfectly made up for his shallowness. As long as Lin Yuan asked the Moon Empress about all his doubts, a few words from the Moon Empress would allow Lin Yuan to have a thorough understanding of the previous problems. At the same time, the Moon Empress questions were also a process for Lin Yuan to consolidate. This question-and-answer exercise had resolved many of Lin Yuan's doubts. This feeling of benefiting greatly made Lin Yuan feel very comfortable. Lin Yuan told the Moon Empress about his idea of going out to train. The Moon Empress listened carefully to Lin Yuan's thoughts with a smile on her face, her eyes filled with pride for her child. The Moon Empress knew Lin Yuan's current strength. At first, she was very surprised when she found out, but she had never taken the initiative to ask Lin Yuan. In the Moon Empress' opinion, every spirit chi professional should have their own opportunities and secrets. As Lin Yuan's master, the Moon Empress had always been standing behind Lin Yuan and silently watching her disciples' progress. The Moon Empress always blamed herself a little for not helping Lin Yuan enough on his path of growth. However, as a pinnacle expert, how could the Moon Empress not appreciate her disciple's self-reliance and self-improvement? Without such character and perseverance, how could he have the possibility of becoming a true expert? After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he looked at his master, the Moon Empress. Master, I plan to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection after I come back from the training. Then, Lin Yuan told the Moon Empress about the process he had gone through to participate in the Radiance 100 sequence selection. Although the Moon Empress already knew about it, she didn't stop it and listened quietly. From the Moon Empress' point of view, it was the happiest thing for a teacher when her own disciple told her about his achievements. At night, Lin Yuan stayed for dinner at the Radiant Moon Palace. Before leaving the Radiant Moon Mountain, the Moon Empress stopped Lin Yuan and handed him a very ordinary-looking wooden token that was carved with a crescent moon. The first and last crescent moon seemed to be rotating non-stop, and each rotation lasted for a month. Lin Yuan looked at the wooden sign in confusion. The Moon Empress stepped forward and said, "This is a source-type item called the Extreme Token. My Fey, Cold Moon Lone Disk's Moonlight domain is sealed inside. It can be used as a trump card to protect yourself apart from the Mother of Bloodbath." When the Moon Empress said this, there was a faint smile on her face. Although the Moon Empress had found the Mother of Bloodbath as a path protector, it could be said to be a perfect plan. However, as a teacher, how could he truly be at ease when it came to the safety of his disciple? Lin Yuan suddenly felt his eyes dry up as he looked at this very ordinary-looking source-type extreme token. Lin Yuan could feel a kind of love from the depths of the soul. This was a kind of selfless love for the best. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan and reached out to help him tidy up the collar of his clothes. "Disciple, since you've chosen to go on your own, you can try to establish a faction that belongs to you. The Radiance Federation is peaceful and happy because it is strong enough, and no one dares to invade it. However, the world outside the Radiance Federation is a mixture of good and evil. Sooner or later, it will be a world you will have to explore. Remember, no matter what, I will always be your strongest support. With me around, no matter what you do, even if you poke a hole in the sky, no one in this world can touch you." When she said this, 2 crescent moons seemed to form in the Moon Empress' eyes, constantly condensing and disappearing. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 255. Finally, the Moon Empress waved her hand and said in a warm voice, "Go. I'll cook something delicious for you when you come back." It was already late at night when Lin Yuan went down the leaning Moon Mountain. The cold autumn wind blew on Lin Yuan's body, giving him an indescribable feeling. This feeling was ambition and lofty sentiments. In Lin Yuan's opinion, a man should be upright and broad-minded. Even if he did not go through the life and death tribulation and sweep away the turbidity of the universe, he should at least take revenge while he was young. Lin Yuan no longer had too much pressure from the outside world, whether it was to survive or improve his strength. Even if there was pressure in terms of strength, it was given by Lin Yuan himself. Lin Yuan could be said to be a young hero for having such strength at the age of 18. When he heard the Moon Empress' words just now, Lin Yuan suddenly had the idea of forming a private faction. Although Lin Yuan had the idea of forming a guild club before, it could not be considered a private faction. However, a guild with the nature of a club couldn't be considered a private force. Especially now that Lin Yuan had the floating island whale, which could be called a strategic resource of the world. Lin Yuan could completely establish a private faction of his own on the floating island whale's back. When the floating island whale grew up, it would be like a giant beast with a floating city on its back. The floating island whale could carry the city on its back on the surface of the sea, but it could also carry the city on its back and float in the clouds. If he built a faction on the back of the floating island whale, which could be called a strategic resource of the world, then Lin Yuan's faction could go anywhere in this big world. It could be said that the floating island whale was the foundation of Lin Yuan's private faction. However, how many resources would be consumed to form such a huge private faction? Therefore, the collection of resources had become the primary problem Lin Yuan had to face. Previously, Lin Yuan had also started to collect source-type items. He did not care if they were useful to himself or his friends. He only treated these source-type items as a kind of strategic material. But now that Lin Yuan had plans to establish his own private faction, the speed of collecting strategic resources was obviously only a drop in the bucket. Suddenly, Lin Yuan thought of Gao Feng's reaction when he saw the furniture made of completely jade-textured wood. As a core member of Wind Mist City's Gao family, Gao Feng still loved and cherished this completely jade-textured wood. It could be seen that this completely jade-textured wood had a vast market among the rich and powerful families. It wasn't that completely jade-textured wood was so rare that it couldn't be found. On the contrary, completely jade-textured wood was much more common than some truly precious spiritual materials and fays. However, such a situation had occurred because this completely jade-textured wood was crazily sought after by people with status in the Radiance Federation, and the market was simply too vast. As long as completely jade-textured wood appeared on the market, it would immediately be snatched up by the big families. Wealthy families would never let go of the opportunity to buy completely jade-textured wood. No matter how much jade-textured wood there was, as long as he could afford it, he would buy it and store it. This was because the ornaments and furniture made of jade-textured wood, even if they were just small ornaments, represented the heritage and face of a wealthy family to a certain extent. Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was now 80 square meters in size, and it did not look small. Apart from the area occupied by the Spirit Pool and the Pure Land of Bliss, there was still more than half of the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone that could be set up. However, Lin Yuan had never done detailed planning and integration of the empty spaces in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Therefore, there were still plenty of empty spaces in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone that could be used again. Moreover, more than half of the large batch of wood that Lin Yuan had stored in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had been used up after building the red sandalwood longevity fish tank and some jade-textured furniture. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to store more precious wood in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. At the same time, he would place some fays that would transform in an environment with a pure spirit chi concentration in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. As for those spiritual materials that could transform in an extremely high spirit chi concentration, Lin Yuan did not plan to place them in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone anymore. Firstly, it was too troublesome for Lin Yuan to collect those spiritual materials that could transform in the Star Web's Rare Lifeform Pavilion. Secondly, it was because those spiritual materials that could transform in an extremely high spirit chi concentration might have a longer transformation period than completely jade-textured wood. Moreover, the purchase price was much higher than those ordinary wood that could produce completely jade-textured wood under a large amount of spirit chi concentration in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone. Finally, these spiritual materials that could transform in an extremely high spirit chi concentration were not only not as wide as completely jade-textured wood in the market. They might not even be as good as completely jade-textured wood in terms of price. After all, completely jade-textured wood not only had actual value, but it also had the additional value of symbolizing foundation and face. After Lin Yuan made full use of the empty spaces in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, these completely jade-textured rare wood cultivated in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone and rare phase that would transform in an environment with a pure spirit chi concentration were Lin Yuan's trump cards and capital to build his faction. Since Lin Yuan had the idea of building a faction, he also had the method and idea to accumulate resources. What Lin Yuan had to do was to accumulate resources bit by bit. Then, he would plan how to establish his faction's embryonic form. All of this could not be done overnight, so Lin Yuan was not in a hurry. He planned to first consolidate the foundation of the faction's embryonic form. After all, the floating island whale had not hatched yet, and before it became a fantasy breed, it could not become a giant beast that could support a city on its back. When Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, he saw Wen Yu carefully folding his clothes one by one. She placed the clothes he needed to go out on adventures in a button-shaped diamond face storage box that was very similar to his source-type source sand. Hu Quan, on the other hand, was carving a completely jade-textured peach wood with a gleaming knife. The completely jade-textured peach wood showed a kind of agate-like luster, and Hu Quan quickly carved a somewhat decaying peach tree. The branches of this decaying peach tree strangely had a kind of dragon-like beauty. On the ground at the base of the sculpture, some peach branches scattered from the decaying peach tree gave off a lush feeling that peaches could grow immediately. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. Mercury's essence flows upstream in the sky, and the spring breeze turns into a blue dragon's head. Occasionally, its roots and leaves touch the soil, scattering into the world of flowers. When Hu Quan heard Lin Yuan's words, the carving knife in his hand immediately sped up and carved Lin Yuan's poem on the base of the peach wood sculpture. Lin Yuan, after working here for a few days, the materials used for carving are much better than what I usually see in a year. Lin Yuan replied. Uncle Hu, if you're not afraid of hard work, I have a lot of good materials for carving. You can choose all kinds of jade-textured wood. Hu Quan's eyes immediately lit up. This kind of brightness was even brighter than the eyes of a weasel looking at an old hen. How can this be considered tiring? What else could be more enjoyable than this? When you looked up at Hu Quan and couldn't help showing an expression of admiration. When you felt that Hu Quan was really an excellent tool who worked tirelessly in the midst of happiness. When you handed the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box to Lin Yuan and said, "That's right. Young master, I've prepared all the resources you'll need for tomorrow's training in this diamond face storage box. Although young master is only going to train for a few months, I've prepared 3 years' worth of clothing, food, fruits, and water." Biyao read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 256. Lin Yuan took the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box and checked it. He found that there were all kinds of materials placed in different categories in this amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Every kind of material was carefully placed in a fixed position in the button-shaped diamond face storage box. Even the food for each meal was carefully packed. Obviously, this arrangement had taken her a lot of effort. This amber button-shaped diamond face storage box had been specially customized by Lin Yuan at Ostrich Logistics. It had taken Lin Yuan half a month to get this amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. This amber button-shaped diamond face storage box was different from Lin Yuan's leaf-shaped and beetle-shaped diamond face storage boxes. The leaf-shaped and beetle-shaped diamond face storage boxes were both brooch-shaped, but this button-shaped diamond face storage box looked like a cufflink. Lin Yuan wore this amber button-shaped diamond face storage box on his cufflink. Then, he let the source-type source sand stick to the amber button-shaped face storage box on his cufflink. This way, when Lin Yuan used the source sand in the future, no one would notice that the amber button-shaped object on his cufflink had disappeared for no reason. This was also a means for Lin Yuan to hide his source-type source sand. Hu Quan came up at that moment and chuckled. Lin Yuan, you just said that there are all kinds of completely jade-textured wood. I wonder if you still take it seriously? Lin Yuan looked at Hu Quan's eager expression and knew that if he did not give these completely jade-textured materials to Hu Quan today, he would probably not be able to sleep well tonight. It just so happened that Lin Yuan was going to set off for training tomorrow morning and would not be in the mansion during this time. Lin Yuan simply took out the remaining completely jade-textured wood in his spirit lock spatial zone. Hu Quan looked at the completely jade-textured wood that emitted all kinds of colors and could not help but stare with his eyes about to pop out of their sockets. Hu Quan was so happy that he screamed like a child. Uncle Hu, see which parts of the manor and house need to be decorated with these completely jade-textured wood. You can decide on the design yourself. When I come back from my training, I'll give you a new batch of completely jade-textured wood. Lin Yuan intended to keep the completely jade-textured wood for his own use in his mansion. If he were to trade with other affluent families, he would only need to take out an entire piece of jade-textured wood. Those wealthy families generally worshipped high-star spirit craftsmen. For the completely jade-textured wood, which was like gold and jade, only by designing it into the shape that the owner wanted could it be considered to bring out the best in each other. He no longer had any completely jade-textured wood on hand. Since he wanted to integrate the space in the spirit lock spatial zone, the best use of the space in the spirit lock spatial zone was to divide it reasonably. Not only did he have to use flat space, but he also had to use high space. Therefore, Lin Yuan asked Hu Quan to pull a few pieces of very large wudong wood and build 2 huge shelves for himself. Lin Yuan had designed these wudong wood shelves to be very wide and thick, so he could put the whole wooden board in them one by one. When Hu Quan was making these huge shelves of wudong wood for Lin Yuan, he was still muttering in his heart. Lin Yuan had completely jade-textured wood, but he was now using ordinary wudong wood that could be bought for tens of thousands of Federation dollars to make a shelf. What was the use of making the shelf so big? Hu Quan could not help but sigh. I really can't understand the world of the rich. However, as a Class 4 spirit craftsman, Hu Quan had directly sculpted this huge shelf when he was creating it. Each wudong wood was engraved with phoenix feathers, with a phoenix spreading its wings and wanting to fly perched on them. The wudong wood had always been known as the habitat of the phoenix, a fictional creature recorded in ancient books and records. The phoenix cries, on the high hill. The wudong tree grows, on the morning sun. It was a kind of tree that symbolized light. Even though the shelf was made of ordinary wudong wood, it was immediately made into an exquisite object by Hu Quan. With a wave of his hand, Lin Yuan stored these 2 huge shelves into the spirit lock spatial zone. Before the spirit qi awakening, the phoenix only existed in ancient books and records, and it was considered a fictional creature. However, after the spirit qi awakening, some powerful avian fays had evolved with similarities to the legendary phoenix. Take Chime for example. If Lin Yuan had seen Chime use the radiant body in his previous life, he would probably have recognized Chime as a phoenix when it used the radiant body. Since Lin Yuan was going out to train tomorrow, he returned to his room early in the morning. However, he was not in a hurry to sleep. Instead, he planned to buy a batch of supplies on Star Web tonight. At the same time, he would also evolve and mutate the 4 elemental shellfish that were living very freely under the high spirit qi concentration in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan first entered his spirit lock spatial zone and placed these 2 large shelves made of wudong wood at the edge of the spirit lock spatial zone. These 2 large shelves occupied 1/3 of the spirit lock spatial zone's 80 square meter area. After tidying up the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan sorted out many places that he had not used before. Then, he transferred all the radiance dollars in the beetle-shaped diamond face storage box into his amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. The leaf-shaped diamond face storage box was still filled with all kinds of dimensional lifeforms flesh that stretched as far as the eye could see. Now, Lin Yuan's beetle-shaped diamond face storage box was considered empty. Lin Yuan planned to use this beetle-shaped diamond face storage box as a place to store all the supplies he needed in the spirit lock spatial zone in the future. Since Lin Yuan wanted to fully utilize the spirit lock spatial zone, the consumption of energy ores was much higher than before. The floating island whale and the elemental shellfish consumed a lot of pure spiritual power. Morbius spirit qi condensation also consumed a lot of spirit qi when it condensed spirit qi crystals. In addition, Lin Yuan was also preparing to nurture those fays that would mutate under the high spirit qi concentration, so the consumption of energy ores would increase exponentially. Previously, Lin Yuan's energy ore reserves were already far from reaching the standard. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to fill this beetle-shaped diamond face storage box to the brim with energy ores. At the same time, Lin Yuan decided to increase the quality of energy ores he purchased in the future. He would no longer purchase low-grade energy ores but mid-grade energy ores. He would read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 257. Lin Yuan still had to store a large batch of rare wood. In the future, as long as the wood in the spirit lock spatial zone was completely jade textured, Lin Yuan could take them out and place them in this beetle-shaped diamond face storage box. Then, he would place a new batch of ordinary wood on the parasol wood shelf. This way, there would not be any waste in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan already had plans for those precious fays that would transform in an environment with a high concentration of spirit qi. The purchase with no loss store had always only sold silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish on sale. Now, he could add another type for buyers to choose from. Lin Yuan believed that when these fays, which could only transform in a high concentration of spirit qi, appeared in his purchase with no loss store. At that time, people would think of all sorts of ways to snatch them. However, Lin Yuan did not intend to use radiance dollars to trade for such fays. Instead, he planned to exchange for some spiritual ingredients that rarely appeared in the rare life form pavilion. For example, the day and night spirit silver. Although such spiritual ingredients were also sold in the rare life form pavilion, it was not so easy to purchase them. Otherwise, he would not have thought of using any kind of bronze/epic phase to post a trade message in his purchase with no loss store at that time. Lin Yuan went on Star Web and ordered a huge batch of mid-grade energy ores under Zhou Jessen's dumbfounded expression. Lin Yuan first mailed his beetle-shaped diamond phase storage box to Zhou Jessen through Ostrich Logistics. Then, Zhou Jessen would fill the beetle-shaped diamond phase storage box and mail it to Lin Yuan through Ostrich Logistics. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to transport such a large batch of energy ores through Ostrich Logistics. Then, Lin Yuan spent nearly 100 radiance dollars in a Star Web wood store to purchase a large batch of precious wood. The wood that Lin Yuan had prepared previously was not considered very expensive. Apart from red sandalwood, which was considered precious, the other wood could only be considered relatively ordinary. The more precious the wood, the higher the price of the jade-textured wood. Therefore, Lin Yuan only chose 5 types of precious wood in the Star Web wood store. Among them were yellow rosewood, chicken wing wood, ebony, green elm, and golden nanmu. These 5 types of completely jade-textured wood were currently the most expensive on the market. Since he wanted to integrate the resources, he naturally had to choose the completely jade-textured wood that was relatively expensive in the market to nurture. Of course, Lin Yuan had also purchased a few large pieces of high-class agarwood. After these agarwood trees were completely jade-textured, he planned to use them as consumables in his mansion. Lin Yuan chose a fei that was very useful to creation masters when there was a high concentration of spirit qi that would undergo a metamorphosis. This fei was a kind of succulent plant, and the lowest grade of this succulent plant was at bronze. This kind of spirit item was called silk pearls. The silk pearls were the most unpopular among the bronze meaty feis. The bronze silk bead might be a healing type fei, but its healing ability was too special. The string of pearls would use the dew produced by the plant to drip on the target's wounds to heal injuries. Although the ability looked similar to other healing type feis, the string of pearls could heal the target's wounds. Although the ability looked similar to other healing type feis, when the string of pearls juice dripped on the wounds, it would be accompanied by unbearable pain. Therefore, even if healing type spirit qi professionals were in short supply, if they only contracted a healing type fei like the string of pearls, they would immediately become the most unpopular existence among all healing type spirit qi professionals. Many teams would rather wait for other healing type spirit qi professionals or bring along a support type spirit qi professional than to endure the bone-deep pain after being injured. However, the bronze succulent plant, the string of pearls, would transform into a new kind of fei, the flower brocade pearl, in a high-purity spirit qi environment. The flower brocade pearl would still produce dew, but it could be placed in the spirit fluid made from multiple spiritual ingredients, increasing the speed of the spiritual ingredients fusion. Of course, this speed increase would not improve the creation master's standard. However, it could shorten the time it took for the creation master to concoct the spirit fluid. When concocting the spirit fluid, a creation master had to be highly focused, and a slight distraction would cause the spirit fluid concoction to fail. To a certain extent, the flower brocade pearl could shorten the time it took for the creation master to concoct the spirit fluid. It was the same as slightly reducing the failure rate. It was not easy for a creation master to successfully concoct a spirit fluid, and it would often require a lot of effort. In fact, they would need to fail several times and waste a lot of spiritual ingredients before they could succeed once. Therefore, any creation master that laid eyes on the flower brocade pearls would do everything they could to purchase them. If there was anyone in this world who had the easiest money to earn, it would definitely be the wealthy creation masters. Lin Yuan had chosen the string of pearls because he wanted it to transform into the flower brocade pearl under the high-purity spirit qi concentration. One of the reasons was that the flower brocade pearl's appearance would increase the success rate of creation masters concocting spirit fluids. It would also allow more spirit qi professionals to have the opportunity to heal phase and recover their damaged roots. The Radiance Federation's creation master resources were extremely scarce. Even if a creation master's success rate in concocting the spirit fluid was slightly increased, they would be able to spare more time to change the fates of spirit qi professionals with damaged roots and earn more radiance dollars. At the same time, it would also allow Lin Yuan to harvest more creation masters' leaks. Another reason was that although the string of pearls was a bronze fei, they were very small. It was because of this reason that Lin Yuan could increase the number of string of pearls in the limited space in the spirit lock spatial zone. The bronze string of pearls were very cheap, and many star web stores had chosen to carry out promotions for the bronze succulent plant string of pearls. Lin Yuan had bought 1,000 bronze string of pearls and only spent 800 radiance dollars. Lin Yuan couldn't help but lament that the bronze string of pearls were simply too cheap. However, when the bronze string of pearls transformed into flower brocade pearls under the high concentration spirit qi concentration, the price would be hard to estimate. Fays like the flower brocade pearls were simply too rare and rarely appeared. Most of them were exchanged with other items, so there was no specific price to refer to. After all, creation masters would never look at the price when buying things. If they wanted to, they could just increase the price. Who asked creation masters to be rich and capricious? Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of The Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 258. The water-type and chi-type spiritual ingredients to induce the elemental shellfish to evolve were very easy to buy. As long as the elemental shellfish were induced by a single element spiritual ingredient in a pure spirit qi concentration, they would quickly mutate. After purchasing this batch of resources, Lin Yuan received the large amount of resources he had purchased more than an hour later. Lin Yuan chose 100 of the 1,000 silk beads and placed them in the spirit lock spatial zone. Then, he placed a portion of the large amount of wood on the shelves carved from parasol wood, filling up 2 shelves. The spirit lock spatial zone was now fully utilized by Lin Yuan. Next, Lin Yuan had to induce 2 of the 4 elemental shellfish to evolve into aquamarine elemental shellfish and 2 into celestine elemental shellfish. At the same time, Lin Yuan placed the crystal eggshell with the floating island whale's green and white patterns in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan sensed it and found that the floating island whale's elemental eggshell had not absorbed the high-purity spirit qi in the spirit lock spatial zone. He knew that this was because pure water and air elements were still needed to be added at this time. Only then would the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale absorb the high-purity spirit qi, water, and air elements together. Only then could the floating island whale hatch bit by bit. Lin Yuan could not help but think that given the floating island whale's uniqueness, if it had not been brought out of the deep sea by the Gao family and met him, it probably would not have hatched. The spirit qi concentration in the depths of the sea was very high, and it could satisfy the ordinary island whale's spirit qi needs. At the same time, the seawater contained a lot of water elements. After a very long time, the ordinary island whale would absorb enough spirit qi and water elements and break out of the crystal eggshell. However, the floating island whale's incubation required the addition of air elements in addition to spirit qi and water elements. There were no air elements in the deep sea, so although the floating island whale had transformed into a more powerful life form, it was still a floating island whale. Perhaps the original intention of nature was not to allow this mutation to continue. Lin Yuan took the 4 elemental shellfish that had awakened from their infancy stage and circulated the spiritual power in his body to quickly inject spirit qi into the elemental shellfish. When the elemental shellfish reached Elite 9/Epic, Lin Yuan stopped the infusion of spirit qi. Then, he took out the water elemental spiritual ingredient, which was a very ordinary bronze seaweed that grew in the ocean. Under the influence of the high-purity spiritual energy and the fragments of the bronze-rank aquatic plant that contained water element, two of the elemental shellfish's originally white shells suddenly had dark blue veined patterns. These deep blue patterns were like the waves of the sea. At the same time, the elemental shellfish with deep blue wave-like patterns opened its shell, and the flesh inside gradually turned light blue. Finally, when the shells of the two elemental shellfish turned light blue, Lin Yuan knew that these two elemental shellfish had mutated into aquamarine elemental shellfish. Then, he enhanced them from Elite 9/Epic to Elite X/Epic. Previously, he had not upgraded the elemental shellfish to Elite X because he was afraid that it would evolve on its own when it reached Elite X in the Spirit Lock spatial zone with such a high spirit chi concentration. However, now that the elemental shellfish had mutated into the aquamarine elemental shellfish, he no longer needed to worry. This was because the Elite X/Epic aquamarine elemental shellfish would only evolve again under the influence of water elemental spiritual ingredients. As long as Lin Yuan did not provide the aquamarine elemental shellfish with water elemental spiritual ingredients, it would never evolve from Elite X/Epic to bronze. Similarly, Lin Yuan also used very ordinary gas-type spiritual ingredients to induce the other two elemental shellfish to mutate into the Celestine elemental shellfish. The Elite X/Epic Celestine elemental shellfish's shell and flesh were pure cyan, and there were storm patterns on the shell. At that moment, Lin Yuan had evolved the four elemental shellfish into two Elite X/Epic aquamarine elemental shellfish and two Elite X/Epic Celestine elemental shellfish. The aquamarine elemental shellfish and Celestine elemental shellfish were now the size of a bowl. Lin Yuan saw that the aquamarine elemental shellfish and Celestine elemental shellfish were absorbing the inexhaustible high-purity spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. In a short while, the aquamarine elemental shellfish produced an aquamarine thumb-sized pearl. The Celestine elemental shellfish also produced a thumb-sized Celestine pearl. Lin Yuan placed the two aquamarine elemental shellfish and the two Celestine elemental shellfish beside the crystal eggshell gestating the floating island whale. Whether it was the aquamarine elemental shellfish or the Celestine elemental shellfish, as long as the next elemental pearl was produced, the previous elemental pearl would be pushed out of the shell. It landed on the floating island whale's crystal eggshell. With the aquamarine elemental pearl that contained pure water elements and the Celestine elemental pearl that contained pure chi elements, the floating island whale began to truly absorb the high-concentration spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. This time, Lin Yuan finally witnessed what was called a whale swallowing all things. The floating island whale's single breath of spirit chi almost absorbed all the spirit chi in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. If the spirit pool was not like a bottomless pit that could decompose energy ores, as long as the spirit chi concentration in the Spirit Lock spatial zone did not reach the Spirit Lock spatial zone's limit, it would immediately decompose the energy ores to produce spirit chi. It was probably not enough to maintain the Spirit Lock spatial zone's spirit chi consumption. However, Lin Yuan had a diamond phase storage box's mid-grade energy ores, which could completely support such consumption. After the floating island whale's crystal eggshell breathed in and out a few times, he could feel a hazy consciousness forming in the crystal eggshell that nurtured the floating island whale at that moment. Lin Yuan let the amber button-shaped source-type source sand at his cuff precipitate a feather formed by the day and night spirit silver. He took the feather formed by the day and night spirit silver and slashed it across his palm. Then, he placed his palm on the floating island whale's crystal eggshell. The consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell seemed to have found something and absorbed the warm blood flowing out of Lin Yuan's palm. Lin Yuan could feel that the consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell was very lonely. However, after finding his blood in the lonely search, it was as if it had found its closest kin. After absorbing enough of his blood, the consciousness in the floating island whale's crystal eggshell emitted a childlike emotion. Lin Yuan smiled slightly. At this point, this floating island whale truly belonged to him. After exiting the Spirit Lock spatial zone, it was almost 3 in the morning. Lin Yuan lay on the bed, hugging Genius and Chimey, and fell into a deep sleep in the warm bed. The next morning, the sky was bright, and Lin Yuan opened his eyes. After having breakfast and saying goodbye to Wen Yu and Hu Quan, Lin Yuan embarked on a journey of training. The Moon Empress was feeding the platinum spirit siphon goldfish in the lotus pond in the inner palace. She looked at the lotus flowers in the pond and muttered, "I wonder how many diamond/legend lotuses in this pool will be able to comprehend the willpower rune and evolve into fantasy breeds after my spirit liquid is poured." Then, the Moon Empress looked at the lotus pond and shouted softly, "Listen up, all of you. When spring comes, the lotus pond in the rear palace will only be planted with suzerain tier lotuses. Those that haven't reached the suzerain tier will be moved to the garden in front of the palace." These peak-stage diamond lotuses of various colors had already developed spiritual intelligence. When they heard the Moon Empress words, the lotuses and lotus pods swayed. At this time, Xian Yu walked to the back hall and said in a clear voice, "Moon Empress, young lord's assistant, Wen Yu, has come to the Radiant Moon Palace to seek an audience with the Moon Empress. I wonder if the Moon Empress wishes to see Wen Yu." If it was in the past, Wen Yu wouldn't even have the chance to seek an audience with the Moon Empress. Wen Yu wouldn't even have the chance to speak to Xian Yu. Moreover, Xian Yu had taken the initiative to ask the Moon Empress for Wen Yu's opinion. Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress didn't stop feeding the fish pellets one by one into the lotus pond. Instead, she said, "Bring Wen Yu to the rear palace to see me." Hearing this, Xian Yu acknowledged the order and left. At the same time, Xian Yu thought to herself. She didn't expect the Moon Empress to ask Wen Yu to seek an audience with the rear palace. The rear palace wasn't a place that ordinary people could enter as they wished. Even Class 5 creation masters like Bamboo Monarch and Chef Supreme wouldn't dare to take a step into the rear palace without the Moon Empress' permission. Wen Yu's identity had changed because of Lin Yuan's choice to choose her as his assistant. The lotus pond was full of dancing lotuses, and the fish were playing in the lotus pond, causing ripples. Wen Yu was very nervous and was trying hard not to tremble. This was the first time Wen Yu had the chance to face the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress looked at Wen Yu calmly and asked in a cold voice, "Why do you seek an audience with me?" Wen Yu's eyes slowly changed from apprehension to incomparably firm. "Moon Empress, I want to become stronger." The Moon Empress didn't comment. "Why?" Wen Yu gritted her teeth and said stubbornly. "Moon Empress, I don't want to become a useless person by Lord Lin Yuan's side." Lin Yuan was walking on the royal capital streets and holding his mobile phone, preparing to book a flying fei. Suddenly, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice entered his ears. "Lin Yuan, where do you plan to go for your first training trip?" Lin Yuan asked without any hesitation. "I plan to go to the Dimensional Rift's interior to train." Baidu read the latest chapter of the Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 259. Lin Yuan had already made plans for his training outside the Endless Forest. If he still went to the Endless Forest to harvest, he would only obtain some relatively rare and low-grade feis. As a creation master, it was easy for feis to have a favorable impression of him, so the danger he could encounter in the Endless Forest was very limited. Given Lin Yuan's current strength, even if he encountered a platinum fei, the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand would be able to put up a fight. In fact, Lin Yuan could even control the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand to kill low-grade platinum feis effortlessly. The source-type source sand's abilities developed in all aspects. Defense, attack, control, all of these abilities were well-rounded. However, ever since Lin Yuan had promoted the fantasy breed source sand to gold and enhanced its exclusive skill metal consume manifestation twice, the source sand's defense had been greatly improved. If Lin Yuan let the source sand precipitate the feathers formed by the day and night spirit silver to form 4 wings, the 4 wings on his back would spread out. The 4 wings on Lin Yuan's back opened up, and he just needed to circulate his spiritual power to transform the black wings of slaughter into white wings of protection. The white wings of protection could withstand an all-out attack from a platinum fei. However, if he resisted an all-out attack from a platinum fei, he would have to consume a lot of spiritual power to let the day and night spirit Silver's feathers release the attack damage to the surrounding environment. Moreover, the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Sand Granule's Spirit Acceptance, hid the heart-penetrating iron line, which was equivalent to a Platinum 3/Flawless Fae. Under a sudden all-out attack, few Platinum Faes could withstand it. Moreover, he was a creation master in the Endless Forest, and he was not willing to slaughter Faes wantonly. Therefore, since Lin Yuan wanted to experience a life and death training, there was no place more suitable than the inside of the dimensional rift. Upon hearing that, the Mother of Bloodbath replied, "There are a total of 4 types of dimensional rifts in the vicinity of the royal capital that are currently open and under control. Have you decided which one you want to train in?" There were a total of 5 types of dimensional rifts. Apart from a large number of dimensional Faes, there were also some spiritual ingredients that could only be produced in the dimensional rifts. In the hands of creation masters, these spiritual ingredients were used to concoct spirit fluids to evolve Faes and improve their quality. Therefore, near every major city in the Radiance Federation, there was a dimensional rift entrance that had been controlled by the Radiance Federation officials. These controlled dimensional rifts were good places for the Radiance Federation's younger generation to train. At the same time, it was also a good place for adventurers who accepted missions to harvest spiritual materials. In these controlled dimensional rifts, even if one couldn't find the spiritual ingredients in the dimensional rifts, killing some dimensional lifeforms and obtaining their flesh would be considered a considerable income. However, among the 5 types of dimensional rifts, only 4 were controlled by the Radiance Federation. The method to control a dimensional rift was to have multiple King-class expert squads cleanse a Class 3 dimensional rift. He then took 2 of the 3 source-type items produced by the Class 3 dimensional rift, leaving only 1. The remaining source-type item would maintain the dimensional rift's opening. Under such circumstances, the strength of the dimensional lifeforms in a Class 3 dimensional rift would decrease due to the decrease in source-type items. Each open dimensional rift was actually like a transit station. Outside the transit station was the human's real world, and on the other side was the dimensional lifeform's world. The area inside the dimensional rift was very large. When there was only 1 source-type item left in a Class 3 dimensional rift, it was equivalent to closing the gateway to the dimensional lifeform world. Therefore, the dimensional lifeforms that emerged from the other world in the controlled Class 3 dimensional rift could only maintain the standard of pinnacle Class 2 dimensional rifts. The 4 types of dimensional rifts controlled by the Radiance Federation were the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift, the Abyss Dimensional Rift, the Swamp Dimensional Rift, and the Underground Dimensional Rift. The 5th type of dimensional rift was uncontrollable by humans. This was because the 5th type of dimensional rift only opened in the ocean, and it was the Water World Dimensional Rift. Upon hearing the Mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "Let's go train in the Abyss Dimensional Rift." Let's go to the Abyss Dimensional Rift to train. The lifeforms in the Abyss Dimensional Rift have the strongest individual strength and are most suitable for honing combat skills. The Alien Insect Dimensional Rift could be said to be Lin Yuan's old friend. The Alien Insect Dimensional Rift had always been said to be the strongest among the dimensional rifts that opened on land. This was because the number of insects that gushed out of the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift was far greater than the Abyss Dimensional Rift, the Swamp Dimensional Rift, and the Underground Dimensional Rift. However, the Alien Insect Dimensional Rift was nothing to Lin Yuan's source-type lifeform, Red Thorn, as long as Red Thorn had the chance to attack. Then the boundless insect sea would not be that big of a threat. Especially after Red Thorn became stronger, the sea of flowers that it spawned would also become more powerful. The sea of flowers spawned by Red Thorn would also be more harmful to those low-grade alien insects. As long as these low-grade alien insects entered the sea of flowers, they would immediately become fertilizer for Red Thorn. Among the 4 types of dimensional rifts, the Swamp Dimensional Rift was the most unsuitable for training. This was because there were all kinds of strange marsh lifeforms hidden in the Swamp Dimensional Rift. Most of the lifeforms in the Swamp Dimensional Rift were highly toxic. In the muddy swamps of the Swamp Dimensional Rift, there might be a deadly, venomous dimensional lifeform hidden somewhere. Most of the underground dimensional rifts were filthy and ugly underground lifeforms. Apart from the water world dimensional rift, the Earth dimensional rift was currently the least explored dimensional rift by humans. This was because there was almost no light in the underground dimensional rift, and the deeper one went, the darker it would be. Therefore, only some spirit chi professionals who had contracted phase with illumination functions would have the capital to explore the underground dimensional rift. The underground dimensional rift had an abundance of metals and spiritual ingredients. It was just like the day and night spirit silver that Lin Yuan had previously allowed the source sand to devour. It had been excavated from the underground dimensional rift. This was also the reason why the day and night spirit silver was rare and expensive. As for the abyss dimensional rift, it was mostly filled with extremely powerful abyssal demons. There were many types of demons in the abyss dimensional rift. Demons were also divided into grades like the alien insects. However, demons of the same grade would mostly have different abilities. The alien insect dimensional rifts were the strongest among the abyss dimensional rifts, the swamp dimensional rifts, and the underground dimensional rifts because of their numbers. Among the 4 types of dimensional rifts that opened on land, the abyss dimensional rift had the least number of dimensional lifeforms. However, the genetic model of dimensional lifeforms like the abyssal demons was relatively complex. Compared to other dimensional lifeforms from other dimensional rifts of the same grade, their individual strength was much stronger. Furthermore, many of the demons in the abyss dimensional rift were adept at using flames. The flames used by the demons in the abyss dimensional rift had withering characteristics and were extremely damaging to plant-type phase. The mother of Bloodbath muttered to himself for a moment, and that strange yet pleasant voice echoed in Lin Yuan's ears again. If you are going to the abyss dimensional rift to train, the Class 3 abyss dimensional rift outside the royal capital is more suitable for you. The Class 3 abyss dimensional rift outside the royal capital originally had 3 source-type items, but there is only 1 left now. Only Class 4 demons will appear in the dimensional rift, and the strongest Class 4 demon will only be equivalent to a pinnacle platinum Fae. The danger level is similar to that of a pinnacle Class 2 dimensional rift, and it is very suitable for you to undergo life and death training. You can go all out and hone your combat skills. When your life is in danger, I will protect you. Lin Yuan was a little curious as to why the mother of Bloodbath, who usually did not speak much, suddenly spoke so much this time. Her attitude towards him had also changed quite a bit compared to before. Before Lin Yuan could think more, the mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice echoed again. However, there are still 2 months before the active period of the dimensional rifts. At that time, the Radiance Federation officials will seal these Class 3 dimensional rifts that are controlled by the royal capital. Therefore, you have less than 2 months left to train in this Class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Lin Yuan nodded and immediately ordered a gold flying Fae, broad-winged gray swallow. Lin Yuan rode on the broad-winged gray swallow's back and headed toward the controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift not far from the royal capital. Baidu was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 260. When the mother of Bloodbath had experienced the world cleansing and evolved from Suzerain/Myth I to Myth 2, it had known of Lin Yuan's strength. At that time, the mother of Bloodbath had not thought too much about it. However, when it recalled Lin Yuan's strength, it was shocked. In the mother of Bloodbath's opinion, even if Lin Yuan was the Moon Empress disciple, it was too shocking for him to have such strength at this age. Therefore, the mother of Bloodbath had recommended Lin Yuan to train in the controlled Class 3-dimensional rift. Lin Yuan sat on the gold broad-winged gray swallow's back and faced the late autumn morning wind with his eyes closed to rest. The gold broad-winged gray swallow's speed could be ranked in the top 3 among the gold wind-type Faes that could be reserved in the royal capital. Although the gold broad-winged gray swallow was inferior to the platinum divine travel black swallow, it was much more comfortable than the platinum divine travel black swallow while taking into account its flying speed. At least when Lin Yuan sat on the gold broad-winged gray swallow's back, he would not feel his butt resting on it. The controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift outside the royal capital was not considered far from the royal capital. The gold broad-winged gray swallow only needed to fly for 2 to 3 hours to reach the location of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Lin Yuan got off the gold broad-winged gray swallow and looked at the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. He could not help but sigh. At that moment, there were many vendors at the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. These vendors were selling daily necessities. This scene reminded Lin Yuan of Millstone Town. However, Millstone Town had experienced close to 100 years of hardships and had already become a stable gathering place. Many spirit chi professionals had settled in Millstone Town for generations. However, although the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift looked similar to Millstone Town's market, it could not be maintained for long. However, if they wanted to maintain a business in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance, they would not be able to do so for long. After about every decade, the Dimensional Rift would enter an active phase. Once the Dimensional Rifts became active, Dimensional Rifts would open one after another all over the Radiance Federation in the next year. The first half of the year was fine, as there were relatively few Dimensional Rifts. However, in the second half of the year, the frequency of these active dimensional rifts would increase. In the Radiance Federation's history, there was even a Class 4 dimensional rift that had opened during the active phase of the dimensional rifts. The Class 6 dimensional lifeforms in the Class 4 dimensional rift had the strength of a suzerain fae. Every time the dimensional rift was active, the Radiance Federation would enter a state of war preparation. This year was filled with danger, but it was also filled with opportunities. This was because the active phase of the dimensional rift every 10 years would contribute a large number of source-type items. However, for controlled Class 3 dimensional rifts, during the active phase of the dimensional rift, the only remaining source-type item had to be taken out. He would then destroy the controlled Class 3 dimensional rift. Otherwise, during the period of the dimensional rift riot, this originally controlled Class 3 dimensional rift might very well evolve into a Class 4 dimensional rift. At that time, it would truly become a natural disaster. For controlled Class 3 dimensional rift entrances like the Radiance Federation, the Guild Alliance would set up branches. Here, spirit chi professionals could form teams and even accept missions related to the Abyss Dimensional Rift's spiritual ingredient collection. The Abyss Dimensional Rift did not produce any particularly precious spiritual ingredients. Even if there were, most of them were fire-attributed spiritual materials, and were relatively simple. However, there was a special flame in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. This special flame was very magical. As long as spirit chi was injected into it, it would keep burning. This flame was rather useful for some lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. For example, some spirit craftsmen, blacksmiths, and other lifestyle class spirit chi professionals all needed this special flame. In fact, the Chef Supreme, one of the Radiance Federation's 5 Class 5 creation masters, was holding a special flame that was said to be a fusion of several kinds of Class 4 Abyss dimensional rifts. After these special flames fused with each other, they would form a brand new flame. The Chef Supreme used this flame to cook delicacies that could help fays improve their quality and quickly evolve. At the same time, it could also restore the fays' damaged roots. Lin Yuan noticed that many people were pointing at him and discussing something. He tilted his ear and listened carefully. How many times have we seen this silver-masked guy this week? If not 20, there are at least 10. Big brother, can you not use this week? Today is only Tuesday. Can't you just say that there are at least 10 on Monday? This silver-masked kid isn't professional enough. He isn't even wearing black clothes. This is the most unprofessional person I have seen. However, the silver mask on his face is much more exquisite than others. Lin Yuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm the worst person to pretend to be myself? With that thought in mind, Lin Yuan suddenly froze for a moment. Why did I use the word pretend? I am already one. Lin Yuan didn't choose a team like the previous time when he went to the Endless Forest for the Wild Harvest. This time, after Lin Yuan verified his identity, he entered the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance and entered the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. After entering the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan realized that the inside of the dimensional rift was much more prosperous than the outside. The entrance was like a large camp that sold some of the necessities in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. In the Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan could feel that the temperature here was at least 30 degrees Celsius higher than the outside world. The temperature outside the royal capital was 15 degrees Celsius, but the temperature in this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was close to 50 degrees Celsius and had a sulfuric smell. This scorching heat made Lin Yuan feel uncomfortable. However, Lin Yuan didn't care about this scorching heat at that moment. Instead, when no one was paying attention, an amber button-shaped crystal object that was less than the size of a bottle cap fell to the ground at Lin Yuan's cuff. This amber button-shaped crystal turned into a wisp of fine sand and drilled into the Abyss Dimensional Rift's purplish-black soil. The source-type source sand was only instinctive and didn't need Lin Yuan to consume spiritual power to control it. Therefore, Lin Yuan simply let the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand freely create sand in the soil under his feet in the direction he was heading. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly felt someone gently tugging at his sleeve. Lin Yuan turned around and realized it was a young girl who was a few years younger than Chu Ci. The young girl's skin was a little red and had some small freckles. However, she had an infectious and innocent smile on her face. Her big round eyes were like juicy black grapes. At that moment, the little girl saw Lin Yuan looking at her, so she handed over the ice blue grass in her hand and said, "Lin Yuan, you're a little girl. Big brother, you like brother He too, right? Little Zao likes it too. Here's an ice mist grass for big brother. I hope big brother won't be bullied by those evil demons." Lin Yuan looked at the little girl who handed him the ice mist grass and squatted down to touch the little girl's raised ahog. "Zao, why did you give big brother the ice mist grass?" Lin Yuan looked at the ahog on the little girl's head and could not help but think of Chu Ci. Chu Ci always had a hog on her head that liked to stand up. When he saw that this little girl's skin had a trace of redness, Lin Yuan knew that this little girl must have been living in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift for a long time. The redness of the skin was the result of staying in a hot environment for a long time. Fays like the ice mist grass were very common in the outside world, and the price was close to 100 Federation dollars. The ice mist herb was a very ordinary normal fay. All it could do was release some icy mist to lower the temperature of the surrounding environment. Upon hearing that, the little girl revealed a big smile and said, "That's right. Big brother He is little Zao's idol, so little Zao gave big brother an ice mist grass. Little Zao only gave others a blade of grass." Lin Yuan was a little surprised. It turned out that this little girl called Little Zao was his fan. However, Lin Yuan felt a little strange. "Little Zao, why do you give the leaves of the ice mist grass to everyone who comes in?" Hearing that, Little Zao said happily. It was Mommy who asked Little Zao to do this. Mommy said that those uncles, aunties, big brothers, and big sisters who came to the dimensional rift would beat up those baddies, which would reduce the number of baddies. Only then can Mummy bring Little Zao here to bring some delicious food to eldest uncle, eldest aunt, eldest brother, and eldest sister. Only then can Little Zao eat the granulated ice Mummy made every day. Mummy said. At this point, Lin Yuan saw the girl named Little Zao pondering for a moment. Then, Little Zao seemed to have thought of something, and her eyes lit up. Mommy said this is called gratitude. When Lin Yuan saw this girl called Little Zao's innocent smile, the face behind the mask also revealed an extremely sunny smile. This girl called Little Zao's words gently caressed Lin Yuan's heart. This simple sentence seemed to shine with a radiant light. Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 261. Lin Yuan rubbed Little Zao's head and was preparing to stand up. Just as Lin Yuan was about to stand up, he suddenly felt a prying gaze from the side. This gaze wasn't the gaze of an ordinary passerby. Instead, this gaze was concealing a faintly discernible probing and sizing him up. Lin Yuan followed the direction of the gaze and turned his head. He saw an inconspicuous middle-aged man that didn't have any presence in the crowd sizing him up. When Lin Yuan suddenly turned his head, the middle-aged man was startled. It was obvious that he didn't expect Lin Yuan to suddenly turn around. The middle-aged man instantly concealed the probing expression on his face and laughed heartily as he walked over. "Hey! Young man, you are also acting as black, right? There are plenty of adventurers wearing silver masks that enter the Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift every day, but it seems like little Zhao is the closest to you." Lin Yuan's brows behind the mask creased without a trace. This inconspicuous middle-aged man might be speaking very naturally, but when Lin Yuan turned his head around, the middle-aged man's face suddenly changed into a probing expression, and Lin Yuan had personally witnessed it. In fact, if Lin Yuan wasn't wearing Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask, he wouldn't have noticed it. As Lin Yuan had been wearing Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask, even though Lin Yuan's eyes were constantly looking at little Zhao, his perception of the surroundings was still very strong. Within a 10-meter radius, including the blind spot at the back of Lin Yuan's head, Lin Yuan's perception was extremely sharp. Genius's Tool Transformation silver mask might not be able to see through those meticulously arranged assassinations by high-ranked spirit chi professionals. However, Lin Yuan could still sense the middle-aged man's probing gaze. Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lifetimes, had an additional lifetime of experience, and he was able to understand the emotions represented by other people's gazes. The middle-aged man's probing gaze had a trace of anxiety. However, this anxiety didn't seem to be coming from Lin Yuan. On the contrary, it seemed like this middle-aged man was hiding a trace of anxiety, which was why he was spying on and sizing up Lin Yuan, who had just entered the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. In other words, the middle-aged man was probing him to see if he would become an uncertain factor that could affect the matter that the middle-aged man was worried about. The middle-aged man's appearance might not be eye-catching, but Lin Yuan was able to use Genius's precise memory to memorize the middle-aged man's aura and figure. Little Zhao looked at the middle-aged man who suddenly spoke and walked over. She waved her little hand and said, "Hello, big uncle." This unremarkable middle-aged man sized up Lin Yuan a few more times before waving his hand at little Early. He then stood at the side and sized up the other adventurers that had just entered the dimensional rift. After the unremarkable middle-aged man left, Xiao Zhao whispered to Lin Yuan. "Big brother, this big uncle has been here for more than 2 years, but this big uncle is so strange." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan asked softly, "Why does little Zhao feel that this eldest uncle is very strange? This eldest uncle doesn't have a stall here. Other big brothers, big sisters, big uncles, and big aunts that come to explore will come here to buy some things from their mothers before entering to fight the demons and baddies. However, this eldest uncle will only leave for 1 or 2 days and will spend most of his time here doing nothing." Speaking of this, little Zhao spoke with some concern. "Big brother, do you think this eldest uncle can't defeat the demons and will fight the baddies? If that is the case, will this eldest uncle starve?" When Lin Yuan heard this, his originally frowning brows furrowed even more. This middle-aged man was indeed strange. However, Lin Yuan didn't probe too much into this middle-aged man. At the entrance of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift in the royal capital, be it outside or inside, there was a King-class expert dispatched by the Radiance Federation's officials to stand guard. Therefore, no one dared to cause trouble here. If they did, they would be punished according to the severity of the situation. However, even if this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was controlled, it was only at the pinnacle of Class 2, and it was still very dangerous inside. Therefore, this order and stability was only maintained at the entrance of this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Once inside, life and death would depend on one's strength and opportunities. This Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift had been controlled here for 7 to 8 years. It was unknown how many lives this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift would devour every year. Of course, the death of these spirit chi professionals wasn't only due to the demons in this Abyss Dimensional Rift, but but also the humans who were also spirit chi professionals. There were plenty of opportunities in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, such as rare spiritual ingredients or even strange flames. Such opportunities were often accompanied by great value, so it wasn't strange for people to kill and snatch their treasures. After the spirit chi awakening, the human evolution process had changed from the original foundation. Before the spirit chi awakening, humans relied more on wisdom and not martial strength. However, after the spirit chi awakening, humans were like the many other creatures in the world. They needed to increase their individual strength to deal with the challenges of evolution. After the spirit chi awakening, there were also great benefits in the process of increasing human strength. One of the greatest benefits was the extension of lifespan. It was just like after becoming a king class expert, even at the age of 100, the body's cell vitality would still be comparable to that of a 20 or 30-year-old youth. Lin Yuan walked into the Abyss Dimensional Rift's depths from this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's entrance. Along the way, Lin Yuan didn't summon Chimey or Red Thorn. Lin Yuan's main objective for this training was to practice how to use the Source-type Source Sand in combat. Ever since Lin Yuan had obtained the Source Sand, he had never used it in combat. Therefore, in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan had to properly practice using the Source Sand's combat ability. Although the Source Sand's exclusive skill, Sand Control, allowed Lin Yuan to use the Source Sand as his own arm, being able to control the Source Sand as his own arm and controlling it with the greatest efficiency in combat were two different things. Controlling the Source Sand as his own arm was a kind of ability, but controlling it with the greatest efficiency was a kind of experience. Not long after entering this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, Lin Yuan saw a group of Class 2 demons. Biyao was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 262. This group of Class 2 demons was a group of horn demons. Horn demons were considered the most notorious existences among the Class 2 dimensional lifeforms in the Abyss Dimensional Rift. Each horn demon had a huge horn on its head. This horn was spiral-shaped and had a strange flame pattern on its tip. Each horn demon was the size of a bull, and its thick and strong limbs allowed the horn demons to carry shocking power when they charged. When the horn demons charged forward, the flame pattern would emit sparks with the withering characteristic after hitting the target. At the same time, the horn demons could also spit out flames with the withering characteristic. Horn demons had great strength. Although Class 2 horn demons were only equivalent to silver phase, Class 2 dimensional lifeforms were comparable to gold phase. However, the Class 2 dimensional lifeforms, horn demons, were comparable to some gold phase in terms of strength. Furthermore, horn demons could spit out flames with the withering characteristic. This powerful strength and flames with withering characteristics made the horn demon's single combat strength almost the top of the Class 2 dimensional creatures. This was the benefit of a Class 2 dimensional life form like horn demons with a complex genetic model. However, such a complex genetic model wasn't so friendly to Lu Jie's Source-type Insect Queen and Lin Yuan's Source-type Source Sand. If Lu Jie's Insect Queen devoured an insect species Fey with a complex genetic model like the Abyss Dimensional Life Form, the Horn Demon's genetic model, the amount of spiritual power required to replicate such an insect species Fey with a complex genetic model was far more than replicating other insect species Feys with relatively simple genetic models. Just like Lin Yuan's gold/fantasy breed Source-type Source Sand, the Gravel Spirit Acceptance could accept a heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to Platinum 3/Flawless. However, if the Gravel Spirit Acceptance was a Horn Demon, it could only accept a Horn Demon that was equivalent to a Pinnacle Gold/Flawless Fey. A Pinnacle Gold/Flawless Fey might have extremely strong combat power among Pinnacle Gold/Flawless Feys. However, it was completely powerless against the heart-penetrating iron line that was equivalent to a Platinum 3/Flawless Fey. The diversity of Horn Demon's attacks allowed them to become a dimensional life form that cultivated elemental magic and physical strength. However, the heart-penetrating iron line's attack method was very simple. It relied on the explosive power and penetrative ability of its slender and hard body to assassinate the target. However, Lin Yuan had to admit that when he looked at the aura of this group of horned demons, which wasn't considered a lot, he felt that it was even more oppressive than a small sea of insects. This small group of horned demons had obviously discovered Lin Yuan. After seeing Lin Yuan, this group of bull-sized horned demons let out a strange but abnormally loud roar and cruelly charged at Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan looked at the 40 to 50 horned demons that were charging at him and extended his hand unhurriedly. The moment Lin Yuan raised his hand, the ground beneath the horned demons collapsed, and the originally hard purplish-black soil started to boil like quicksand. The boiling sand directly stopped the centaur's charge. The centaur desperately tried to break free from the surging quicksand. But at that moment, Lin Yuan's raised hand clenched into a fist. The instant Lin Yuan's hand clenched into a fist, the 40 to 50 horned demons suddenly let out intense and painful cries. Subsequently, these horned demons stopped trying to break free from the surging quicksand. Behind each horned demon, there was a broad and thick sword made of bluish-black ferromanganese. The 40 or so horned demons that were the size of bulls were tied to the thick sword by the ferromanganese chains that were separated from the source sand. Due to the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, the surging quicksand was able to form a chain sword made of ferromanganese from the gravel. The surface of the ferromanganese was complemented by the abnormally sharp metal characteristics. As the horned demons struggled violently, they immediately cut open large wounds on their bodies. As the horned demons struggled again, the wounds quickly turned into holes due to the repeated cuts. A large amount of purplish-red blood, which was unique to abyssal demons, flowed out of the holes, and the blood immediately vanished when it flowed into the quicksand. Lin Yuan shook his head. These horned demons weren't enough for him to train. Immediately after, Lin Yuan's mind moved, and the chain sword instantly tightened. In just a moment, these bull-sized horned demons stopped breathing. Lin Yuan waved his hand and stored all these horned demons into his leaf-shaped face storage box. Mosquitoes might be small, but they were still meat. These Class II abyss-dimensional lifeforms, the horned demons, were very suitable as food for the Bronze 6/Epic Red Thorn. Now, Red Thorn was no longer consuming large quantities of alien insect-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. Instead, it was consuming large quantities of abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. The abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh also contained extremely strong acidity. However, this acidity was different from the alien insect-dimensional lifeforms' blood. The acid in the flesh of the alien insect-dimensional creatures was extremely corrosive. However, the abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh's acidity was like sulfur. Apart from being corrosive, it also had a burning and withering characteristic. Initially, when Red Thorn was at the elite grade, consuming abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh would be a burden on the mouth of relinquished digestion. However, now that Red Thorn's strength had increased, it wasn't so restrained when eating abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh. At the same time, the abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh's acidity with the burning and withering characteristic could make the acid in Red Thorn's digestive fluid more diverse. In fact, while Red Thorn was consuming abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh to increase its acidity, after devouring abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh, Red Thorn was no longer that afraid of the withering characteristic in abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flames. As a source-type lifeform that evolved by devouring flesh, Red Thorn had also grasped a portion of this withering characteristic and fire resistance. Of course, only Red Thorn's Ortet possessed such fire resistance. As for the ramets and child ramets that Red Thorn produced, their fire resistance was still very weak. However, Lin Yuan believed that as long as Red Thorn devoured abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh in the future, Red Thorn had already grasped a trace of the abyssal dimensional lifeform's blood's withering characteristic, and its fire resistance would continue to increase. At the same time, Red Thorn's ability to devour abyss-dimensional lifeforms' flesh would likely be passed on to the ramets and child ramets through the spores ejected from the spore cavity. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 263. The sky in the abyss dimensional rift was always dark red, and there was no distinction between day and night. It was very easy to lose track of time while training in the abyss dimensional rift. Only when one was extremely fatigued would they remember that a long time had passed and that they needed to rest. The ground was also a boundless purplish-black color. There were rugged rock ravines and smooth areas that seemed to be formed by flowing lava. The air was filled with a dense smell of sulfur, and the temperature was maintained at nearly 50 degrees Celsius. It required constant hydration. Time flew by, and Lin Yuan had already been training in the abyss dimensional rift for a month. Lin Yuan was already used to the abyss dimensional rift's vile environment. A level 4 horned pseudomorphing demon was struggling fiercely in the midst of the boiling quicksand. The struggling horned terror demon was spitting out sticky liquid-like flames that could almost be considered brown flames. The class 4 horned terror demon had the strength of a platinum fae. The sticky liquid-like brown flames that the horned terror demon spat out had an extremely strong withering characteristic. Even a platinum plant-type fae's roots would be immediately damaged after coming into contact with a little bit of the flames, and the area that came into contact with the flames would wither. If the flames were to come into contact with too many of them, the platinum fae's vitality would be corroded by the flames with the extremely strong withering characteristic, causing it to die. All of a sudden, the horned terror demon, which was struggling violently in the surging quicksand sea, suddenly stopped showing signs of life. It was as though something in the sea of sand had struck it and killed it in a single strike. The class 4 horned terror demon was an evolved form of the class 2 horned demon. Due to the complexity of the class 2 horned demon's genetic model, its evolution potential was extremely high. In fact, some extremely talented class 2 horned demons could even evolve into class 5 burning horned demons after evolving into class 4 horned terror demons. A class 5 burning horned demon's combat strength was equivalent to a diamond fae. It was already considered the pinnacle of combat strength in the uncontrolled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. This class 4 horned pseudomorphing demon, which was equivalent to a platinum fae, was still unable to block the all-out sneak attack of the heart-penetrating iron line, which was equivalent to a platinum 3/flawless fae. Lin Yuan let out a breath of relief. For the past month, Lin Yuan had been training in the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. After this month of blood and fire, Lin Yuan had a clearer understanding of his strength. At the same time, he could now achieve true compatibility with the source sand. With such compatibility, Lin Yuan could command the source sand to attack, defend, or control with the greatest effect based on his thoughts. It was just like when he had commanded Chimey and Red Thorn to fight. For over a month, Lin Yuan had been letting the source sand rely on its instincts to create sand in the purplish-black soil. Even Lin Yuan did not know how many grains of sand the Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye source sand had created in the ground under his feet without stopping for a month. Although the source sand's strength had already reached Gold Eye/Fantasy Eye. However, as an elemental source-type life form, the source sand's intelligence was not high even if it was a Gold/Fantasy breed. The source sand, which had advanced to a fantasy breed, could only transmit simple and vague thoughts. However, as the source sand's gravel underground spread out in a large area, the source sand's gravel spread out. Through its control of the gravel and its perception of spiritual power, the source sand had already discovered many fire-type spiritual ingredients. As long as the source sand sensed these spiritual ingredients, the large amount of gravel hidden under the purplish-black soil would surge out under the source sand's control. It would wrap the spiritual ingredients in the sand and bring them underground. Finally, according to the source sand's will, it would transport them to Lin Yuan's feet. For the past month, apart from training his strength, Lin Yuan had also obtained quite a lot of fire-type spiritual ingredients. The harvest of fire-type spiritual ingredients in this Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift was also quite plentiful. After the source sand's gravel was spread out under the ground, its ability to search for treasures was really not just for show. Of course, during this month, Lin Yuan had also understood some truths that he had never truly understood even in his 2 lives. That was the principle of human heart upward and human nature downward. Humans were divided into good and evil, and so was human nature. Humans always wanted to be able to become better, so the human heart was never satisfied. Therefore, the human heart never had a limit. As for human nature downward, it meant that when humans wanted to achieve a certain goal, in order to satisfy the greed in their hearts, they would unconditionally lower their human nature's bottom line. Therefore, human nature never had a bottom line. In this Class 3 Abyss-Dimensional Rift, apart from the Abyss-Dimensional Lifeforms attacks, Lin Yuan had also encountered 3 waves of attacks from Spirit Chi professionals. The reason Lin Yuan had been attacked by these 3 waves of Spirit Chi professionals was that he did not have any experience training in the wilderness. Lin Yuan had been attacked by these 3 waves of Spirit Chi professionals because he had not had any experience training in the wilderness. When Lin Yuan had taken out food from his amber button-shaped diamond face storage box, he had been seen by the other Spirit Chi professionals. These 3 waves of Spirit Chi professionals had wanted to kill him, allowing Lin Yuan to truly understand the dangers of training in the dimensional rift. Lin Yuan did not have the slightest bit of mercy toward these Spirit Chi professionals who wanted to kill him. Those who wanted to kill would always be killed. Ever since Lin Yuan had been ambushed by Chen Zhao and Chen Rui in the royal capital's outskirts, he had already made a decision in his heart. Lin Yuan was still the same person he had been in the past. His heart was like a flower that grew toward the sun. However, against those who wanted to kill him, Lin Yuan would also use the most cruel methods. His life was his, and no one could take it away. If they wanted to take it, they would die. These Spirit Chi professionals who wanted to kill him for his treasures were all buried in this endless underground gravel. Lin Yuan knew that these Spirit Chi professionals who were exploring the dimensional rift wanted to kill him because they were after his wealth. Therefore, after these Spirit Chi professionals were devoured by the source sand, their wealth naturally went to Lin Yuan's hands. As for the wealth in the hands of these Spirit Chi professionals who wanted to kill him, Lin Yuan really did not care about it. These miscellaneous spiritual materials and those radiance dollars added up to just over 100,000 were just a drop in the bucket for Lin Yuan now. Lin Yuan would not keep these resources. He planned to take them to Zhou Jiesen's Star Web store after the training and let her help him sell them. Lin Yuan was now a major shareholder of Zhou Jiesen's Star Web store, and Lin Yuan's Star Web store's profits were even more than Zhou Jiesen's. During this period of time, Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store's profits were already not a small sum. However, if Chimey saw Lin Yuan's purchase with no loss store's wealth and then looked at its live streaming room's profits, it would definitely say that none of them could fight. At first, Lin Yuan had an exceptionally uncomfortable feeling in his heart during his first massacre. However, this uncomfortable feeling slowly dissipated after Lin Yuan digested it on his own. Lin Yuan looked at the purplish-red sky in the Class 3 Abyss-Dimensional Rift and said softly, "If one wishes to shake the world, one must create waves on the flat ground." Since Lin Yuan had already decided to establish his private faction. In the process of his private faction's rise, it was inevitable that it would be accompanied by killings. The rise of a faction would never be peaceful. However, Lin Yuan also had his own ideas about the development of his private faction. Lin Yuan had always known where his advantages were. His advantages were the high concentration of inexhaustible spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone and his ability to enhance phase. Therefore, Lin Yuan's private faction planned to first collect resources and accumulate wealth. Lin Yuan did not want to establish a private faction with a large number of people. Instead, he wanted to build an organization where everyone in the organization was made up of absolute elites. In his previous life, Lin Yuan had also seen a lot of anime when he was young. It was like the Akatsuki organization in Naruto. The 10 Blades in the Realm. Such a faction was what Lin Yuan wanted to build. Lin Yuan's private faction was built on the floating island whale's back. The floating island whale was hidden in the clouds all day long, just like the flowing clouds in the sky. The flowing clouds in the sky had always been out of this world and rarely had an impact on the mortal world. It was unlike a faction that was like a thunderstorm with a great momentum. Once it rained, the world would know. However, no matter how powerful the thunderstorm was, it was ultimately only a moment of heroism. However, if anything dared to anger the flowing clouds hidden in the sky, the clouds would surge, and the sky would change. At that moment, Lin Yuan's brows suddenly raised. According to the source-type Source Sand's perception when it was exploring the spiritual ingredients underground, it seemed to have sensed an object that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. Moreover, this object seemed to be a plant. Based on the Source Sand's perception, Lin Yuan knew that this object had extremely long roots underground. After sensing the Source Sand's perception again and again, Lin Yuan finally confirmed that this plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi was very small. It was so small that it might not even be as big as Lin Yuan's tightly clenched fist. Therefore, Lin Yuan gave the Source Sand an order to try and bring this plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi over. The Source Sand sensed Lin Yuan's will and immediately started to move according to Lin Yuan's order. At that moment, Lin Yuan could sense that the Source Sand was facing an abnormally firm obstruction. Lin Yuan immediately injected spiritual power into the Source Sand and let it use its exclusive skill, Metal Consume Manifestation. It precipitated the day and night spirit silver in the sea of sand to form feathers and started to chisel and dig at this firm obstruction. Just as the Source Sand broke through the obstruction, a green flame suddenly burst into the sky in the distance. This green flame burst into the sky with a shocking momentum. It immediately dyed the purplish-red sky of the controlled class 3-dimensional rift with a layer of green. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 264. Lin Yuan looked at the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance and felt that half of the class 3-dimensional rift's purplish-red sky was tainted with green. Lin Yuan's brows furrowed tightly. As an elemental source-type life form that Lin Yuan had contracted, the Source Sand might not have high intelligence, and the thoughts it transmitted were only a relatively one-sided existence. However, with the Source Sand's limited intelligence, it relied on the images transmitted by Lin Yuan's mind connection, allowing Lin Yuan to discover many abnormalities. Things were definitely not simple. After the Source Sand dug through the solid barrier, it immediately felt like it was being burned. Lin Yuan knew that the Source Sand had either been attacked by the demons with flames or the flames produced by the plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. However, after Lin Yuan sensed the burning sensation from the Source Sand, he was sure that this kind of flame could not have come from the Abyss Dimensional Rift's demons. This was because this burning sensation did not contain the power of destruction and withering. Instead, it contained a kind of dense vitality that was the opposite of the power of destruction and withering. It was as though the burning itself was creating life. Some spiritual ingredients would also grow in the Abyss Dimensional Rift, and they were almost all fire-type spiritual ingredients. Therefore, Lin Yuan wasn't surprised at all. Lin Yuan sensed the dense vitality in the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance and compared it with the flames that the Source Sand had come into contact with and the characteristics contained in the burning sensation. Lin Yuan knew that the green flames that soared into the sky in the distance were released after he had ordered the Source Sand to dig through the not-so-sturdy barrier. Lin Yuan sensed the Source Sand's current state and pondered for a moment before ordering it to continue to bring over the fist-sized plant that contained a huge amount of spirit qi. Upon receiving Lin Yuan's order, the Source Sand immediately started to move. All of a sudden, Lin Yuan sensed a pure fire-type energy through the Source Sand. Just as Lin Yuan sensed this pure fire-type energy through the Source Sand, an extremely dense scarlet flame soared into the sky. This extremely dense scarlet flame immediately covered the green flame that had almost dyed half of the class 3-dimensional rift's purplish-red sky. After this extremely dense scarlet flame soared into the sky, a dense scarlet vortex immediately appeared in the sky. The scarlet vortex was filled with the scarlet flames formed by the class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift's massive amount of fire elements. This scarlet flame was rapidly absorbing the fire-attributed energy in the surrounding space. In an instant, Lin Yuan felt that the temperature in the class 3-dimensional rift had dropped by more than 3 degrees due to the extraction of a huge amount of fire elements. The grains of sand that the source sand had created to wrap around the plant that contained a large amount of spirit chi had all melted into a liquid the instant the scarlet flames soared into the sky. However, the source sand did not suffer any substantial damage. After all, the grains of sand that contained a large amount of spirit chi plants were just a drop in the ocean of sand that the source sand had produced by crushing the rocks beneath the soil layer. At that moment, Lin Yuan gave the source sand another instruction. He let the source sand bring over the day and night spirit silver, which the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, had taken a lot of effort to break through the barrier debris. Lin Yuan looked at the scarlet flame vortex in the distance, and his expression became increasingly solemn. At the same time, he could not help but recall what his master, the Moon Empress, had told him about the world's top 10 most precious fire-type spiritual ingredients, the life-form sacrificial fire. The Moon Empress had emphasized the life-form sacrificial fire when talking about fire-type spiritual ingredients during the question-and-answer session with Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan had also seriously memorized the life-form sacrificial fire's characteristics. The current situation, the vitality contained in the green flames, and the pure fire-attributed energy in the scarlet flames were very consistent with the Moon Empress' knowledge of the life-form sacrificial fire. Lin Yuan took a deep breath. If this flame was really the life-form sacrificial fire, then he had to obtain it no matter what. The life-form sacrificial fire was ranked 7th among the world's fire-type spiritual ingredients because it could be used as a tree core to reshape a dying plant phase second life. It could be said that the life-form sacrificial fire was a kind of sacred item that could give dying plants a second life. However, Lin Yuan had not reached the bottom of the scarlet flame vortex yet, so he could not use Morbius true data to check whether the green flames, which contained a powerful life-form aura, were the life-form sacrificial fire or not. If the green flames, which contained a powerful life-form aura, were the life-form sacrificial fire, then the scarlet flames that soared into the sky must have come from a legendary plant. This legendary plant was a kind of heaven and earth fae that could only be born in a huge amount of pure fire-attributed elements. This fleshy heaven and earth fae was called the Red Pagoda. The life-form sacrificial fire, which was ranked 7th among the world's fire-type spiritual ingredients, was the legendary Red Pagoda. It used its own body as a furnace and exhausted all the energy in its body to nurture it. Lin Yuan was not in a hurry to immediately head toward the scarlet vortex in the sky. Lin Yuan stood in place and waited silently. In a short while, the purplish-black ground under Lin Yuan's feet suddenly collapsed, forming a quicksand vortex that was only the size of a bucket. In the whirlpool of quicksand, a piece of yellow metal was lifted up by the quicksand. This piece of yellow metal was covered with marks left by the impact and cutting. Lin Yuan squatted down and carefully examined this strange yellow metal before standing up. This strange yellow metal was very common in the Radiance Federation because it was the main material for making phase storage boxes. The only metal characteristic of this yellow metal was that it could isolate the aura of phase. Lin Yuan thought to himself, I'm right. There is indeed a big problem here. This was because the Fey metal would not be produced in Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rifts. Whether it was the green flames that soared into the sky containing the life-form aura or the scarlet flames that could form the flame vortex. Under normal circumstances, regardless of whether it was the life-form sacrificial fire or the heaven and earth fae that nurtured the life-form sacrificial fire, the Red Pagoda would have long been discovered by the adventurers who were training in this controlled Class 3-dimensional rift. This also meant that someone had deliberately tampered with the spirit-trapping metal. However, no matter who did this, it didn't matter. As long as it was done, it would definitely not be a good person. This was because if the demons wandering in this controlled Class 3-dimensional rift discovered such a rare flame item that contained such a massive amount of energy. If this object that contained such a massive amount of flame energy was placed in the dimensional rift, it would be placed on the central hub of the Source Seed's connection to the Abyss world. If it was light, it would allow this Class 3-dimensional rift to revert from a pinnacle Class 2-dimensional rift to the original Class 3-dimensional rift before it was controlled. If it was heavy, this massive amount of energy might even directly expand the hub that was connected to the Abyss world. It would directly turn this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift into a Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. If such a situation really happened, it would not only be a disaster for the adventurers training in this Abyss Dimensional Rift. It would also be a huge disaster for the Radiance Federation. This controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift opened in the suburbs of the royal capital, and it was not considered far from the royal capital. If this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift turned into a Class 4 Dimensional Rift and the Radiance Federation was completely unprepared, a large number of demons would surge out from the Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. Even if the Radiance Federation's top experts made a move, the royal capital's periphery would probably be turned into a scorched land by this suddenly opened Class 4 Abyss Dimensional Rift. In a Class 4 Dimensional Rift, there were already Class 6 Dimensional Lifeforms. Class 6 Dimensional Lifeform strength was equivalent to a suzerain phase standard. Furthermore, this open Class 4 Dimensional Rift was an Abyss Dimensional Rift, and the genetic model of the demons in the Abyss Dimensional Rift was relatively complex. Among the dimensional lifeforms of the same grade, they were originally the existence with the strongest individual strength. Putting aside a few Class 6 demons that were equivalent to a suzerain phase standard, even one Class 6 demon that escaped would instantly turn the royal capital's periphery into a land of disaster. Lin Yuan did not choose to conceal his strength this time. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power, and nearly 100 meters of purplish-black soil instantly turned into a quicksand vortex. The center of the quicksand vortex condensed into a pair of giant half-arms, and the arms were doing a lifting action. Lin Yuan stood on the palm of this giant half-arm that was formed from gravel and stood upright. The quicksand vortex within a 100-meter radius instantly boiled, and thousands of black feathers formed from the day and night spirit silver seeped out of the quicksand vortex. These thousands of black feathers formed 4 elegant black wings on Lin Yuan's back. Lin Yuan flapped the 4 wings that were formed from thousands of day and night spirit silver feathers and soared into the sky, flying toward the distant scarlet flame vortex. Biyao was the first to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 265. Lin Yuan flapped his 4 wings and flew very skillfully in the air. This was not the first time he had used the wings formed by the day and night spirit silver feathers to fly. In the previous month of training, Lin Yuan had not only mastered the technique of controlling the source sand, but he had also learned how to use the wings formed by the source sand's metal consume manifestation to fly. At the same time, he had also learned how to use the source sand's exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation, to fly. At that time, Lin Yuan had chosen the day and night spirit silver as the second metal for the source sand's metal consume manifestation to devour. A large part of the reason was that the day and night spirit silver was almost weightless. The weightless wings formed by the day and night spirit silver could increase Lin Yuan's flying speed and save more spiritual power while flapping. Now, the day and night spirit silver feathers that the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand had separated from the sand grains were already very different from before. After referring to many flying fays, Lin Yuan finally chose the feather shape of the platinum flying fay, Divine Travel Black Swallow. The Divine Travel Black Swallow might be very uncomfortable to ride. However, the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape determined that it was better at flying. Of course, Lin Yuan had also made some improvements to the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feather shape. He had reduced the thickness of the feather's edges and made them sharper. At the same time, many bubble-like hollows were formed inside the Divine Travel Black Swallow's feathers. This improvement could allow the limited 1 cubic meter of day and night spirit silver to produce more feathers. After Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into the hollow parts of the feathers, the black feathers would turn white according to the day and night spirit silver's metal characteristics. It could greatly increase the white feather's cushioning and protection against external attacks. Lin Yuan's current flying speed was extremely fast, almost comparable to an ordinary gold flying fay. However, this kind of flying required a certain amount of spiritual power. Although Lin Yuan did not conduct spiritual power into the day and night spirit silver to turn the wings white, he still needed to consume spiritual power to maintain the flapping of these 4 wings. It was not like the countless sand grains that the source sand had created underground, which could be freely controlled according to the source sand's consciousness. During Lin Yuan's flight, the source sand was also rapidly creating sand grains. At the same time, it gathered the yellow sand in the direction of the flame vortex. As soon as the flames that contained the aura of living beings soared into the sky. At the entrance of the dimensional rift, the middle-aged man, who was spying on the adventurers entering the dimensional rift, revealed a horrified and fearful expression. At that moment, almost all the adventurers who were training in the controlled Class 3-dimensional rift saw the soaring green flames and the scarlet flames that covered the green flames and formed a flame vortex. In the abyss dimensional rift, such a situation could only be caused by the strange flames that were produced by the abyss dimensional rift. However, he had never heard of any strange flames that could cause such a change in the dimensional space. In the abyss dimensional rift, many adventurers or adventurer squads who thought they were capable headed toward the scarlet flame vortex. Of course, there were also some adventurers who wanted to try their luck. However, most of the adventurers wanted to leave this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift had become a place of trouble due to the dimensional spatial anomaly. However, the scarlet abyss vortex was absorbing the flame energy from the Class 3 abyss dimensional rift at a very fast speed. In this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift, the temperature of 50 degrees Celsius all year round was now less than 20 degrees Celsius. The temperature of less than 20 degrees Celsius wasn't even as high as the royal capital's temperature in late autumn. This caused the adventurers, who were already used to the temperature in the controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift, to involuntarily feel a chill all over their bodies. Many of the adventurers who had the intention to retreat were preparing to leave this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift. However, they suddenly realized that this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift had transformed due to the extremely powerful scarlet flame vortex's absorption of the fire elements, causing the dimensional spatial entrance to be closed. This also meant that this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift had become a zone that prohibited entry and exit. In the dimensional rift, all communication methods were unable to be used. This naturally included the star web card. Such a situation immediately caused the adventurers at the abyss dimensional rift's entrance to panic. At that moment, the King-class expert that the Radiance Federation's spirit guards had dispatched to this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift stood up and maintained the situation. The Radiance Federation's controlled dimensional rifts were usually managed and maintained by the spirit guards. Every 10 years, the dimensional rifts would be active, and the spirit guards would close the previously controlled dimensional rifts. Once the active period was over, the spirit guards would once again choose a suitable dimensional rift to control. It would form a resource for the Radiance Federation's younger generation to train and the Guild Alliance's registered spirit chi professionals to maintain their livelihood. The spirit guards had arranged for Zhao Jinxiang to guard this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift in the outskirts of the royal capital. This meant that Zhao Jinxiang was highly regarded by the spirit guards. At the same time, Zhao Jinxiang's strength was definitely extremely formidable. After becoming a King-class expert, the Class 3 abyss dimensional rift below Zhao Jinxiang was no longer the first one that he had guarded. Even though Zhao Jinxiang was experienced and knowledgeable, this was the first time he had seen such a dimensional rift. Just as Zhao Jinxiang was presiding over the situation and calming the adventurers down, the middle-aged man, who usually stayed at the dimensional rift's entrance, had unknowingly left this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift's entrance. He hurriedly headed in the direction of the scarlet flame vortex. If this middle-aged man was placed in a crowd, no one would want to take a second look at him. The shock in his eyes was slowly covered by fear. The middle-aged man hesitated for a moment and finally reached out his hand to pull off a thin mask from his face. After this thin mask was pulled off by the middle-aged man, it slowly turned into a brown worm that looked like soft mud. If the spirit guards Zhao Jinxiang, who was guarding this controlled Class 3 abyss dimensional rift, saw this mud-like brown fat worm, he would definitely exclaim. This mud-like brown fat worm wasn't a fey produced by the Radiance Federation's territory. This fey came from the Dark Federation, which was extremely far away from the Radiance Federation. It was considered the Dark Federation's signature Fey. After this middle-aged man took off his mask, there was a very strange talisman on his face. This strange talisman seemed to form a rather sinister crow. The middle-aged man took out a crystal bottle and hesitated for a long time. This crystal bottle contained a drop of black blood. The middle-aged man finally smeared the black blood on the strange talisman that looked like a sinister crow on his face. In an instant, the middle-aged man's eyes became slack as though he was dead. Just as the middle-aged man was about to fall to the ground, his originally dark green eyes suddenly surged with scarlet. This scarlet pupil had a triangular pattern in the middle, which was just like a crow's beak. At that moment, the middle-aged man's aura had completely changed. After the middle-aged man recovered, he crushed the mud-like brown fat worm in his hand and said in a sinister voice, "Useless thing. Useless thing. You can't even complete a small task from me. No wonder you were trained by that trash Cheng Wu. I'd like to see who it is that wants to touch my living sacrificial fire." Biyao read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free as soon as possible. Chapter 266. A youth dressed in dark blue martial arts attire was fighting on a protruding purplish-black rock. He was looking at the scarlet vortex that was rapidly absorbing the fire elements in the distance. Two jellyfish, one red and one blue, floated in mid-air with water curtains around their bodies, circling around the young man in dark blue. A young man with a watermelon hairstyle was commanding a huge skate with a dark blue body and strange light blue patterns on its body. This dark blue giant stingray with strange pale blue patterns was rapidly slaughtering a small group of Class 3 abyss-dimensional lifeforms, the Lintail demons. Among all the Class 3 demons, the Lintail demons were considered the demons with the highest body toughness. The Lintail demon's strongest attack method was to brandish their three long tails covered with scaly spikes to whip and stab. If the scaly tail demon's long tail that was covered in scaly armor spikes, even silver-grade spirit materials would be broken into pieces. If stabbed by the sharp tip of the long tail covered in scaly armor spikes, most silver-grade spirit materials would probably be directly penetrated. However, this small group of Lintail demons, which were equivalent to gold fays, were easily sliced into countless pieces by this giant stingray. The group of struggling Lintail demons' scaly spikes whipped the giant stingray's body. The scaly spikes, which carried a massive force of 500 kilograms, couldn't hurt this giant stingray at all. Even when it whipped the water curtains around the stingray, it couldn't cause any obvious ripples. This youth with a watermelon hairstyle was Fong Duo. The Dragon Gate Guild Club had been in this controlled Class 3 abyss-dimensional rift for over a month. During this period, the Dragon Gate Guild Club's main team and reserve team had a total of 9 members who had been honing the coordination of Fays on the battlefield. If a solo battle was to consider how a person could control a few Fays to carry out an effective battle, the distribution of Spirit Chi professionals' spiritual power and the coordination of Fays' abilities and exclusive skills would determine the eruption of combat power and the direction of the battle. Therefore, there wasn't much difference between a team of Spirit Chi professionals' considerations and individual battles. It was still the coordination of Fays' abilities and exclusive skills. However, among such Fays, the combination of abilities and exclusive skills was switched from individual to group. When a mature Spirit Chi professional squad was in battle, they would not summon all their Fays. Instead, each of them would only summon 2 Fays or even 1 main Fay to cooperate. He would allocate the Spirit Chi in his body to his strongest Fay, maximizing the efficiency of the Spirit Chi usage. He would then summon his other Fays to deal with special situations. In many cases, the non-main Fays would help the main Fays block damage or carry out functional attacks. At that moment, Dragon Gate Club's original 9 members had been reduced to 4. One of the main members of Dragon Gate Guild Club led 4 reserve members back to the base of Dragon Gate Guild Club in the royal capital. He was preparing to carry out the final upgrade of his Fays quality and grade before the start of the tournament season. Fong Duo lifted his head and said to Long Tao. Boss, we're done wrapping things up here. There really isn't much we can do with these scaled tail demons. Upon hearing that, Long Tao did not speak. He only nodded his head and continued to observe the scarlet flame vortex that had suddenly appeared on the horizon. It was as though he was trying hard to think of something in his mind. As soon as Fong Duo recalled his Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Terror Ray into the spiritual spatial zone, he saw Zhao Xiaochun holding an orange. Zhao Xiaochun had already peeled the orange's skin and was eating happily with a large piece of orange flesh in her mouth. Fong Duo hurriedly leaned over and said, "Everyone who sees it gets a share. Zhao Xiaochun, give me half of the remaining half of your orange." Upon hearing that, Zhao Xiaochun quickly lowered her head and stuffed the remaining half of the orange into her mouth. Then, she looked at Fong Duo proudly, her eyes filled with the meaning of, "I peeled the orange, so why should I give it to you?" Fong Duo immediately felt wronged and glanced at Chen Hongfeng, who was working hard to control the huge-tailed swamp lizard and harvesting these Class 3 scaled tail demons that were on their last breaths. Then, Fong Duo climbed up the protruding rock that Long Tao was standing on and said to Long Tao with a grin. "Boss, your 2 Platinum/Fantasy Blue Dragon jellyfish are really getting stronger." Hearing this, Long Tao could not help but rub his temples and said helplessly. "Fong Duo, if you have something to say, say it." Fong Duo replied immediately. "Boss, Zhao Xiaochun has been slacking off. These few waves of demons, Zhao Xiaochun didn't go up at all. She's just eating fruits." Zhao Xiaochun, who was swallowing the orange, almost choked to death when she heard Fong Duo's words. Zhao Xiaochun loved sour food, so the oranges she bought were also very sour. The orange juice flowed into Zhao Xiaochun's nose, causing her to choke on her tears. Long Tao looked at Fong Duo, who was seriously complaining, and Zhao Xiaochun, who was coughing non-stop and was obviously choking. He felt a buzzing pain in his temples. Fong Duo and Zhao Xiaochun had not stopped training for more than a month. Long Tao felt that even if he encountered a group of level 4 demons, they would not be as troublesome as Fong Duo and Zhao Xiaochun. At this time, Zhao Xiaochun secretly glanced at Chen Hongfeng and gave him a look. Seeing Zhao Xiaochun's meaningful glance, Chen Hongfeng immediately said, "Boss, Fong Duo angered big sister Xiaochun to tears just now." Upon hearing this, Long Tao held his forehead with his hand, indicating that he did not want to speak. Zhao Xiaochun threw an orange to Chen Hongfeng and gave him an approving look. Upon seeing this, Fong Duo felt even more wronged and jumped off the rock, clamoring to ask Zhao Xiaochun for an orange. At that moment, Long Tao's solemn voice came. Duo, Xiaochun, Feng, a treasure should have appeared in this controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. This treasure is likely to be a strange flame that we have never heard of before. Let's go and take a look." When Zhao Xiaochun, Fong Duo, and Chen Hongfeng saw that Long Tao was serious, they immediately stopped fooling around. They rode on Fong Duo's Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray and headed in the direction of the scarlet flame vortex on the horizon. Sitting on the back of the Platinum 2/Fantasy 2 Fury Fear Ray, Zhao Xiaochun felt the abnormally low temperature in the Abyss Dimensional Rift and immediately tightened her clothes. Then, she took out a pig's trotter with a layer of shiny oil from her drumstick-shaped diamond face storage box and started to gnaw on it. As soon as Zhao Xiaochun took out this huge pig's trotter, Fong Duo couldn't help but smack his lips. Upon seeing this, Long Tao could not stand it anymore and said to Zhao Xiaochun, who was eating happily, "Xiaochun, give Fong Duo a pig's trotter too." "Xiaochun, give Fong Duo a pig trotter too. You made him so hungry that his fury ray can't even fly properly." Upon hearing Long Tao's words, Zhao Xiaochun reluctantly threw a pig's trotter to Fong Duo and said, "Eat gently. I won this from a buffet previously. You won't be able to eat this pig's trotter in the future." Fong Duo was a little puzzled. "Why can't I eat it when I have money?" Zhao Xiaochun said rather regretfully. That shop had an eating contest previously, so I went to support it and tried it casually. After a month, that shop closed for some reason. At that moment, Lin Yuan had arrived near the Scarlet Flame Vortex. He deliberately found a place where no one was around to land. After landing, he retracted his 4 wings, which turned into thousands of scattered black feathers that fell to the ground. The place where the feathers fell to the ground suddenly turned into a quicksand vortex, and these thousands of black feathers made of day and night spirit silver immediately melted into the quicksand vortex. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice suddenly rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Upon hearing the mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan's pupils shrank. Baiduan wanted to read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 267. The mother of Bloodbath's pleasant and strange voice had a trace of doubt and solemnity. Lin Yuan, I sense a trace of a suzerain/myth breed aura. Lin Yuan subconsciously asked. Is it a suzerain/myth breed fae or a class 6 demon with the strength of a suzerain? This aura doesn't have the smell of flames or sulfur, so it can't be the aura of a demon. Lin Yuan was nervous when he suddenly heard the mother of Bloodbath's words. However, after the mother of Bloodbath confirmed that it wasn't the aura of a class 6 demon, Lin Yuan's heart relaxed slightly. If the aura of a class 6 demon really appeared in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift, it would really be a big problem. However, Lin Yuan still frowned slightly and pondered. The strongest abyss dimensional life form in the controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift was only a class 4 demon. A class 4 demon strength was only equivalent to a platinum phase combat strength. Logically speaking, there really didn't seem to be anything in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift that could attract the attention of a suzerain/myth breed fae. In the Radiance Federation, there weren't any suzerain/myth breed faes. Some wild faes would choose to report to the spirit guards after reaching the suzerain grade. In this way, these wild faes that had reached suzerain could be considered experts that were officially recognized by the Radiance Federation. These wild faes that reached suzerain and chose to serve the Radiance Federation's spirit guards had excellent benefits. They almost didn't have to worry about future promotion resources. At the same time, they would also receive help from the Radiance Federation's Class 4 or even Class 5 Creation Masters. If such experts wanted to take the initiative to obtain resources, most of them would go to those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened in the outside world. They would go to seize the source-type items in those dimensional rifts that suddenly opened. This was the best way for suzerain experts to accumulate resources. Therefore, Lin Yuan was a little puzzled. Mother of Bloodbath, can you suzerain/myth breed faes sense each other within a certain range? The mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in his ears. The aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae can only be sensed by other suzerain/myth breed faes. If one party intentionally retracts its aura, it will be hard to discover the other party's existence even if they are face to face. Unless it is a suzerain/myth breed fae that is naturally adept at detection. However, I'm adept at attacking, not detection. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately confirmed one thing in his heart. This suzerain/myth breed fae should not be like the mother of Bloodbath, who was a path protector of the younger generation undergoing training in this controlled class 3 abyss dimensional rift. Even some rich and powerful clans would arrange for path protectors during their growth. Most of these path protectors were king class or even peak powerhouses. Very few of the Dao protectors of the disciples of the great clans could reach the suzerain rank. Even if there was, it should be a suzerain human expert above king class and not a suzerain/myth breed fae. Moreover, the mother of Bloodbath could actually sense the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae. This meant that the suzerain/myth breed fae didn't conceal its aura. Lin Yuan pondered for a moment before asking. Mother of Bloodbath, did you sense that suzerain/myth breed fae's aura before or after the Scarlet Vortex appeared? The mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice said with certainty. Not long after the Scarlet Vortex appeared, I sense the aura of a suzerain/myth breed fae. However, there is something wrong with the aura. The mother of Bloodbath paused and spoke again. This suzerain/myth fae's aura is very weak, so weak that it doesn't seem like a true suzerain/myth fae. But this aura might be weak, but it is very pure. After remembering the mother of Bloodbath's words, he still could not figure out what was going on. However, Lin Yuan was extremely vigilant in his heart. If this suzerain/myth fae's aura had only been exposed after the scarlet vortex appeared, it would not have been able to escape. This meant that this suzerain/myth fae was also attracted by the strange flame under the scarlet vortex. Lin Yuan felt the gold eye/fantasy eye elemental source-type source sand under his feet, which had almost covered the ground under his feet. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. The source sand that he had contracted was different from his other faes. Over the past month, the source sand had created an unknown amount of yellow sand with its gold/fantasy breed strength. Every bit of yellow sand could increase the source sand strength by a portion. Lin Yuan quickly injected the spiritual power in his body into the source sand under the purplish-black soil under his feet. Lin Yuan ordered the source sand to quickly create sand and fill the bottom of the red vortex, which was likely to be the World Fey Red Pagoda and the ground that had produced the world sacrificial fire from the Red Pagoda. With the injection of Lin Yuan's spiritual power, the gold/fantasy source sand, which had been slowly creating sand, finally revealed its extraordinary power. Every grain of sand under the soil was attached with ferromanganese's hard and sharp metal characteristics and quickly shattered the rocks under the soil. After the source sand accepted Lin Yuan's injection of spirit qi, a large amount of sand was produced and quickly spread in all directions with the flame vortex as the center. He raised his hand and used Morbius Spirit Lock on the Bronze X/Legend Spirit Gather Goldfish's spirit injection to recover the spiritual power he had just consumed. Now that Lin Yuan was prepared to seize this treasure that had triggered the world anomaly. In that case, he naturally had to maintain his best state and accept any possible dangers and challenges. As Lin Yuan walked to the entrance of the valley under the flame vortex, he found that there were already many spirit qi professionals at the entrance of the valley under the red vortex. However, these spirit qi professionals did not go forward and were trapped outside the valley under the scarlet vortex. Lin Yuan looked at the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy under the scarlet vortex and could not help but sigh. The flowing flame-like fire elemental energy almost covered the interior of the valley. Being under the flowing flame-like fire elemental energy in the valley was equivalent to being exposed to the attacks of a pinnacle silver fire-type fae. Most of the spirit qi professionals who came to this controlled class 3-dimensional rift for training and adventure had gold faes. Only a few people had platinum faes. Baidu read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. Chapter 268. Those spirit qi professionals with platinum faes might be able to enter and could even bring 1 or 2 companions with pinnacle gold faes. However, these spirit qi professionals were not at the platinum standard and did not have companions with platinum faes, so they could only be stuck outside the valley. He didn't even have the right to enter the valley. Lin Yuan's arrival attracted the attention of many adventurers and young people who were here to watch the show. Kid, don't go any further. Just watch from here. There are people selling snacks over there, but the price is a bit expensive. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan looked to the side and saw a little fatty holding a pile of supplies and hawking them. Beside him stood a few younger people who were about the same age as the little fatty. They were all clamoring to help the little fatty sell the large pile of goods in front of them. These shouts made the atmosphere of the scene a little noisy. Those who didn't know better would think that they were collectively waiting to watch a performance. Lin Yuan really didn't know whether he should say that the little fatty had a brain for business or that he was foolish enough to not be afraid of trouble. He walked to the entrance of the valley and was about to enter the barrier formed by the flame-shaped fire elements. At that moment, a middle-aged adventurer hurriedly pulled Lin Yuan and said, "Don't worry. Do you want to die?" Those fellows who thought that they were strong didn't manage to run more than a few meters before they were all burned to death by the flame-shaped fire elements. Although the fire elements in this valley are only equivalent to a silver phase attack, the inside is already equivalent to a gold phase attack. As soon as this adventurer finished speaking, another adventurer next to him spoke up. Do you really think you're black with a mask on? Even if black is here, that strange plant and that silver/fantasy breed bird Fae won't be able to enter this fire elemental valley filled with flowing flames. Lin Yuan raised his brows. This elder brother is very knowledgeable. If he were to use red thorn and chimey, he wouldn't be able to enter the valley filled with flowing flames. However, he didn't plan on relying on red thorn and chimey to enter. If Lin Yuan wanted to enter the valley filled with flowing flames, he had two ways. The first method was to summon the silver fantasy breed jasmine lily. He had the jasmine lily cast heal on him, and then he filled his body with life energy and endured the pain. Even if one were to be injured by the flowing flames, the jasmine lily's rich life energy would immediately heal them. However, if that was the case, he would have to endure it back and forth between burning off a layer of skin and growing another layer of skin. Lin Yuan felt that this was simply too tough. Lin Yuan would not be so cruel to himself. However, Lin Yuan had a second method. That was, he could use the source sand to sink into the ground and reach the position below the flame vortex by walking underground. The source sand had already scouted the path for Lin Yuan. The flowing flame-shaped fire elements in the valley were almost at the standard of a gold phase attack. However, the temperature of the purplish-black soil in the valley was not high. Furthermore, the temperature near the fist-sized plant that contained a huge amount of spirit chi was no different from the temperature outside the valley. It might even be colder. Therefore, traveling underground was the best choice. When the two adventurers who had been talking to Lin Yuan turned around, they realized that Lin Yuan had disappeared. The two of them quickly looked at each other and swallowed their saliva. One of the adventurers said in surprise. My goodness, that kid burned away too quickly. The other adventurer realized that the words he wanted to say had been said first, and he choked on his words. After a long time, he said, "It is said that women are made of water." It's said that women are made of water. Is this guy wearing a mask made of oil? At that moment, the two of them suddenly heard a scream from the side. A slightly plump middle-aged woman dressed in leather armor was covering her mouth as she cried out in alarm, "Guguda, Guguda." After screaming for a long time, she shouted, "That kid was just eaten by the soil. That kid was just eaten by the soil." At that moment, Lin Yuan was already 5 meters underground. However, he was not squeezed miserably in the yellow sand. Instead, he was in a metal cage that was sealed on all sides by chain swords. Lin Yuan stood in this metal cage made of ferromanganese and did not dare to move. Even if Lin Yuan was the source sand's contractor, the ferromanganese's metal characteristics did not recognize people. If he moved recklessly, Lin Yuan would have to experience the feeling of a potato scratching the skin of a potato. Soon, Lin Yuan was lifted out of the purplish-black soil by the source sand's huge hand. The moment he left the ground, the metal cage made of ferromanganese quickly melted into the gravel. At this critical moment, Lin Yuan suddenly sensed something. The source sand instantly produced thousands of feathers made of gold day and night spirit silver, and the feathers instantly formed 4 wings. When these 4 wings had just appeared, Lin Yuan injected spiritual power into them, and they turned from black to pure white. The 4 lustrous white wings folded and protected Lin Yuan in between them. At that moment, 3 violent energy blasted on Lin Yuan's 4 lustrous white wings. Even with the gold eye/fantasy eye source sand strength and the day and night spirit silver's extremely strong buffering and shock-absorbing metal characteristics, Lin Yuan still felt a significant impact. This impact made Lin Yuan feel that his internal organs were in pain. However, although this impact made Lin Yuan very painful, it did not cause him any substantial damage. If Lin Yuan had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments and had been paying attention, he would have been seriously injured. If he had not been thinking about the fey-trapping metals fragments, he would have been seriously injured even if he had defended himself. In this month, Lin Yuan had been used to the ruthless methods used to kill people and seize their treasures. However, he did not expect that someone would actually ambush adventurers who had just arrived in this valley. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard 3 rough voices coming from outside. "Big brother, this kid is not dead yet. His reaction is really fast. He's not dead yet. Can't you see that the white wings are not open? Big brother, what fey is this? It can even grow wings on a person's body. Why haven't I heard of it before?" Then, Lin Yuan's lustrous white wings were immediately bombarded by the fey's abilities. The 3 voices were obviously from the same team of spirit chi professionals. Judging from the attacks just now, there were 2 pinnacle gold phase attacks and 1 platinum 2/elite phase attacks. Since it was an ambush, even if the 3 of them did not use 100% of their strength, they must have used at least 80% of their strength. Lin Yuan's ice-cold voice sounded under the 4 lustrous white wings. "Boil, source sand." As soon as Lin Yuan's voice fell, the purplish-black soil in the valley collapsed in an instant, forming a quicksand with a radius of nearly 1 kilometer. At this moment, all the quicksand formed a force that pushed down layer after layer of sand. As the quicksand boiled, it was as if it wanted to drag everything nearly 100 meters underground. Lin Yuan heard 3 rough exclamations, so his 4 white wings spread out and turned black in an instant. Read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Book House for free. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.